There we go.
All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live stream on the Bow Wow Bill YouTube channel. X, are you on X, Linda?
I am on X, yes.
I love X.
There's very few places that you can actually get good information.
Yep.
And X is one of them. As much as people want to hate on X and Elon and all that other crap, you get a lot more voices that are closer to the issues there than you do anywhere else. So
that's why I like it. I find myself probably 85% of my time on social media sites is X, just for that exact same reason. I like the freedom of speech, even if it's something I don't want to hear.
That.
Right. It's like, no, I defend your right to say even the things that I don't want to hear, even if they offend me, even if they're meant to offend. Right. And we'll get into subjects of that manner during our discussion today. And while I'm talking, let me say, if you guys like what I do, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I have an interview with Linda on Patreon. That's a Patreon exclusive. I have some exclusive content on there as well. I've been slacking a little bit, but join me over there. It truly helps. And for all my Patreon supporters, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a link for that in my in the comments down below. It's patreon.com/bowwowbills. And also on YouTube, we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Please follow me on YouTube and X as well, Bow Wow Bill. And with that out of the way, let me share this. And while I'm sharing it, do you want to, I know people know you, but give a quick introduction of who you are, where you're located, and what you're all about.
Okay, so I'm Linda Kaim. I own and operate Lionheart K9 in Westminster, Maryland. I've been training dogs contiguously since 1979 professionally. And as you can see by the gray hair and the wrinkles, I'm heading headlong into the twilight of my career. I'm not retired. I am semi-retired. I have tried to promote a lot more online stuff. I still have availability for trainer-to-trainer coaching. I do private online training for dog owners in a variety of different venues, not just pet dogs, but people who are struggling with dogs that are working in performance venues that they're having difficulty with. And basically just whiling away the days reading and writing and doing what old people do, watching a lot of TV and, being gobsmacked at the things that are happening in our lifetimes and going, well, okay, what's next? So there you go.
And I'm getting, you can't really see it. I like it, but my wife is like, ooh, your beard is getting so gray.
Frosty.
Yeah, getting frosty.
So yeah, it looks good.
I'm almost 50. And I've been in this industry going on 20 years in my own business, right? And I look back, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you today is I want to address the younger trainers that are in the industry and what initially started you. I think we've talked about this before, but remind us, what started you working with dogs? And let's go back to when we were young.
My parents went through a period of discontent. There was 4 of us. I'm 6 years younger than the oldest child in my family. We're all adopted. We're all from very different backgrounds. My sister and I are sisters. We're real live blood sisters, and we were adopted together. But I have an older brother who is 6 years older than I am. I have another brother who's 4 years older. My sister, of course, she's almost 2 years older than I am, and I was the youngest of 4. And when there was a lot of, I was a child of the 60s and the 70s, and we lived very close to Kent State University. We lived in the area when the Kent State shootings happened, and Vietnam was a huge thing. My father was a decorated Marine. He expected his sons to own up to their obligation to the country, and there was a lot of strife, let's put it that way. And as a result, my father felt like he was losing his children. My oldest brother was moving on to college, and he, of course, my father was afraid of him being radicalized by the by the emotions of the day. My other brother, Ron, was just a couple of years away from going into the military himself. And then, of course, there was I and my sister. And my sister she wasn't a problem child, but she was pretty wild. And my parents fought constantly over us kids. I don't think they were prepared for us. I really don't. So my dad, knowing how much I love dogs, would pacify me by saying, hey, you can have a dog. So I got one, and it wasn't some little pound puppy. It was a very expensive Irish setter from Hugh and Virginia Rumbaugh in Fleetwood Farms, who were located in Ravenna, Ohio at the time. And they were more or less neighbors. Virginia was a school teacher in the school district that I went to school in. And Hugh at that time was a retiree, and all they did was breed and show dogs. Virginia worked, but Hugh stayed home, took care of the dogs, and they bred and showed dogs. So I spent a lot of time down there. And when my dad said I could have a dog, I'm like, well, okay, it just so happens that I know where one is. And he bought me this Irish setter puppy who was sired by one of the top Irish at the time it was a really, really close line breeding. You could call it an inbreeding. And he was a lovely dog, but he was wild as a March hare. And I was a kid. I was like 11, 12 years old. And he broke my grandmother's nose at a family gathering. And my dad said, if you don't train this dog, I'm going to kill him. And he would have. He'd have taken him out back and shot him. So I'm like, oh. So I had to find, I had to find someone to help me train this crazy ass little Irish setter. And I found a woman. Her first name was Donna. Her last name was lost in the archive of time. She had English Springer Spaniels and German Shepherd dogs. And I trained with her. She lived in Copley, Ohio, and I trained with her for years because I was just like, I was hooked. I mean, it didn't take me too long. And I can remember before my Aunt Violet dying, she told me the funniest thing after my sister and I were brought to the United States. She thought it was the funniest thing that when there was yet a family gathering and I was on the floor, and I remember telling her that I wanted to be a Cocker Spaniel. And because I thought they were lovely dogs. But anyways, so I trained him up and I showed him successfully. I showed him in conformation. I finished it by the time I was about 15. And I got a couple of legs of an obedience title on him. But basically, that's what pretty much started the legacy. And then he, unfortunately, was one of the first victims of parvo. And at the time, there was nothing that, we didn't know anything about parvo. It was just this thing that was happening, and it was killing dogs. And he was one of the first dogs to go in Ohio, in the Summit County area. So I lost him. And then right after that, I left home. So, yeah, that was it. And I just started training dogs. I was working for Andy Lupert, 8th grader Phoenix Dog Training Academy in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, he lived in Cave Creek. But I worked for him for a while. I worked for another guy named Charlie Sharkady at Sun Valley Guard Dogs. I worked for a bunch of different people from the time I was, ostensibly from the time I became an adult and a fully actuated adult up until now. I have not stopped training dogs. So there you go. That's it. That's my story.
I often tell people that the role of the dog has changed dramatically in the last 100 years. And I think the role or just the whole environment of dog ownership and what's expected, not just from the layperson, but also the professional, has changed dramatically. And just like you said, like your dog was behavior made it a necessity, right? To do something to fix this. Otherwise, I'm going to fix it with a bullet, right? Yep. And that's what people need to realize too, is like, look, things were harder back then, and a dog bit a kid or just read some books, read Old Yeller, read Where the Red Fern Grows. There's a few other ones where, I mean, even now today, if a neighbor is getting a dog over in their property, killing livestock, that's a dead dog. Like literally the dog will be shot. Yep. And the cops won't do anything about it because it's livestock, and the dog is viewed as property even as today. And I think people forget that. I think people forget where we came from. And then also how you got your entry into this at a higher level of expectation based on dogs that are purposely bred and you're kind of coming into this, with, we didn't have as big of a rescue.
There was no rescue. There was the pound, and that was it. And for when we before we moved on to North Hill, before I got that dog, or before we moved from North Hill, before I got that dog, we grew up on Main Street and down in Akron, Ohio. I mean, we were sandwiched right in between Cuyahoga and Talmadge Main Street area, and what would become downtown. And for the most part, I mean, there was never a time when we went out as kids where there wasn't a pack of dogs with us. And I was always really jealous of all the kids that got to go home with their dogs. I didn't have one. But I had the neighbor's dog, Sam, who was my buddy. I was allowed to do a whole bunch of stuff with him, but he was a German Shepherd, and my dad was actually afraid of him. And I was like, I'd spend if my parents couldn't find me, I was with that dog in the Patterson's backyard, hanging out in his doghouse with him, because that's where I wanted to be. And when we did, like, we go down the Howard Street Hill, like in the wintertime, all the kids were sledding and stuff like that. If there was 10 kids, there was at least 6 or 7 dogs, and none of the dogs fought. There wasn't any problem. Everybody knew their place. Every kid had a dog, and every dog had a kid. And when everyone was uploading for the night and getting ready to walk home, that dog got up with its kid and went home. Some of those dogs got to sleep inside. Some of those dogs slept outside in the garage. But everybody, I mean, I can't say that it was an idyllic existence. I mean, there was a lot of dogs that got hit by cars, and there was a lot of dogs that had, litters of puppies where they shouldn't have had litters and stuff. But I can remember when I was very, very young, my mom had this cat, and I can recall her making sure that cat was spayed because she never wanted her to come into season. And I was young. I mean, I was 7 or 8, and this is back in the 60s. And, cats were spayed. Cats were always spayed. Cats were, if you were a male cat, you were thrown outside. If you were a female cat, you were inside and you were spayed. But the dogs, for the most part, I mean, I would imagine that there was more space back then than probably because of where we lived. I mean, because you have to consider at that time, it would have been considered discretionary income to spay or neuter an animal.
Right.
Does that make sense? Because we were, I mean, even though it was Akron, Ohio, it was still, Summit County, Ohio was, for the most part, up until like the late 70s, early 80s, was very agricultural. So you had little enclave cities, Akron, of course, Rubber City, so on and so forth. But outside of those areas was all farmland. So, and that's the people that you lived around. They were farmers or ex-farmers. So that's how they treated their animals.
Salt of the earth people. Right. And while I'm thinking about it too, like even the people that don't realize or don't know the history, the Kent State was where these kids went and protested, and the National Guard opened fire. And I think it killed four kids, like dead. Like, and so that just illustrates how different and no nonsense the time was back then. Right. A lot of change. That's where progressive society kind of really started taking off.
Yeah, and the whole Vietnam era. I mean, I don't know. Are you old enough to remember Vietnam? No. Okay.
No, I'm 70. I was born in 76.
Okay. So. Yeah. Well, you child. But I mean, and this is stuff that you won't see now because the communications, the people responsible for broadcasting. Basically, like, you can't show those images anymore. But we would literally see live feeds of people being burned, people being shot, people being murdered in the streets from Vietnam. And it was like that was the news. That's how you receive the news. That very, very graphic image of the little girl running naked down the street with her back on fire. That was fed to us live when we were children. Right. And the fact that the assassination, I can't remember the guy getting shot at the end of a rifle. That was also fed to us live as children. And that wasn't just an image. It was the whole video. Right. So there was a lot of stuff that we saw that you will never, ever see again unless you pay. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why I mean, this is a hypothetical, but for a long time, mid 70s up until now, you see a lot of horror stories. Right? Really graphic, very violent horror stories. I think that those wouldn't happen if people actually had or were forced to watch the violence that actually occurs in our world. I don't think any of that stuff would exist. I think that people would have a tendency to look at that and say, oh my God, I don't ever want to see that or hear of that again. And for the most part, I mean, I'm not one to like watch murder, like serial killer murder movies and stuff like that. A horror story is different than, some guy who basically decides to take it upon himself to eradicate the world of half of its population for reasons, right? But for the most part, it's like, I think people would be a little bit more circumspect if they realized some of the graphic violence that occurs without having to imagine it.
Well,
just a
and that just, well, and I think also like that high, like there's a curated type of violence now where it's appealing to, and I mean, just dramatic kind of influences. And if we saw it for the way it truly is, that might motivate us to find a different solution.
Yeah.
And, and I, on X, right? Speaking of X, I see some of the drone shots and whatnot in Ukraine that are happening. And I think, just like the evolution of our society has brought about a totally different world with the dogs, but it's kind of insulated us from the reality of the horrible atrocities that are committed. And not only that, but there's also a separation of death, right? But when even funerals, right? And I was talking to my church group. We have a bunch of, I'm Catholic, and we have Filipinos, we have Vietnamese, we have a lot of different cultures. And I was speaking about funeral services and how, 100 years ago, there wasn't really the funeral parlors that we see now. And there wasn't, once somebody died and they take them away, and then it's all dealt with out of sight, right? And
you got to view them until they stank, and then they put them in the ground.
Right.
That's basically it. There was no embalming when you lived out in the middle of Utah, where your average ride into town took a day and a half. So and the thing that really kind of disturbs me, because you mentioned it, so we'll go down that road. We have never been tested in this country at any point in time. We have not been tested, and and the current economy, the things that are happening, if people who pay attention to the world today, I mean, wow, right? I mean, you wake up in the morning going, what's going to happen next? But the thing is, though, is we as a nation, Canada, Mexico as well, for the last several hundred years have lived a very protected lifestyle. So no one would dare attack us on our shores. Canada knows that we would never permit something like that to happen to them. Mexico knows we would never permit something like that to happen to them. So we live in a state of complacency. I'm sorry?
It's just too close for comfort. We wouldn't allow anything to come that close to our borders. We
have lived in this state. Americans have lived in this state of complacency for so long. We experience this sense of entitlement that we're really not entitled to. 100% of the rest of the world suffers egregiously. And we're sitting here like, well, that'll never happen to us. There's a reason that'll never happen to us, because we won't permit it. But the bottom line is have respect for the fact that there is someone that will be more than happy to take that bullet for you, because they don't want it to happen to them or their families either. Right?
Yeah.
The same thing is trickled down to dogs. Okay. The one thing that's failing in the Western world, whether it's the US or other countries, first world countries, is the institution of marriage, right? People no longer feel the need to get married. They no longer feel the need to reproduce. And as a result, what they're doing is they're taking out all of their maternal and paternal frustrations on their animals. So now the dogs have become the protected state. The horses have become the protected state. In our community, we're in a very agricultural community. People move in here from the city. They buy all kinds of farm animals, realize that the farm animals are too expensive to take care of, and they dump them at the shelter. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Or they, hello. And they don't take into account husbandry aspects of these animals and what
No,
it
they
takes.
don't. And it's they freak out because they have their chickens free ranging in their backyard, and then the big giant hawk comes down and pilfers one, and they're like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" It's like, how about you lock up your chickens, right? Or how about you put them under cover so that the big birds can't get them? For the first time, we've been in this location for over 18 years now, and for the first time in my collective life, with the exclusion of my brief encounter with bald eagles in the Washington State, Oregon area 1,000 years ago, we have a native population of bald eagles around here now, right?
Okay.
And we're getting more and more of them every year, right? I saw one, this was years ago, but still, it's like we see bald eagles all the time. We see their silhouettes are very distinctive. I saw one pick up a big old yellow tomcat right out of the middle of the field and just fly away with it, right? So little dogs, little chickens, things like that, they're prey to prey animals. We have coyotes. I do believe we have bobcats, but I don't think we have the population that they do west of us. But they're encroaching. They're moving east. We've had black bear return to this area since COVID. There's been multiple sightings. One was less than a mile up the road from me. So I think it was one of the only snows that we had. I noticed a set of tracks in our lower pasture that were very large and were black bear size. By the time I saw them, they were fairly decayed, but I'm like, yeah, that's not a dog. I mean, that's not a dog, right? And they were paw pads, like a bear print. And so it's not like this stuff is out there. You have to be cautious. You've always had to be cautious. I had a friend that grew up in Montana. He's the same age as me. He had to walk to school. It was like 2.5 miles from where he lived to where he went to school. They carried rifles and shotguns every day. Yep. Why? Because wildlife will kill you. They don't care about you. And there's no selection pressure in this country for that because we've lived under the auspices of someone else's care for so long.
Yeah, and I deal with it because I'm just north of Washington. I'm in Washington State. I'm north of Seattle, about 50 miles. But I'm out here, and even where I am, I mean, it's getting pretty saturated with people. But I tell you, man, we have one of those chicken domes, right? And well, first off, when I first got chickens, I let them free range. I went back there. All 13 of them were dead, and they weren't eaten or anything. That a weasel got them, and I guess they drink the blood
cut off their heads. Yeah.
Right. So and I'm just like, man, and it's just such a harsh awakening of like, nature is brutal. There's a website out there or a social media site called Nature is Metal.
I love that site. I love that site.
It's brutal, man. But it just shows you that nature doesn't care, man. And we have to remember too that we're dealing with a predator mind. We're dealing with nature, and to mislabel it, to put attributes that are transmutation of the relationship aspects that took importance before, we're actually kind of evolving into a blind society of the true reality of the world that we exist in, right? And what I was saying is I have that chicken dome back there. We have grizzlies. I've had grizzlies on not grizzlies, but black bears mostly on the property. But just this year, we had this video. We have game cam set up with 3 cougars, and I called the BLM, and I talked to a person, and I was like, "What's up with these 3 cougars?" And I sent them the video. I can show you the video, but I conceal carry anyway. But I have a gun on me. Typically, if I'm out working, if I'm taking out my trash, I have a 500-foot driveway. And especially when those cougars were out, man, I'm packing and not on the property. I'm not conceal carrying. I have an open carry right on my hip here. But there's things that we have to think about, that it's like when you start evolving the society, not only does it pertain to the blindness of the animals, but it also, there's a certain aspect of blindness that it comes to humans as well. And
I call them rabbit foxes.
What do you mean? Rabbit
foxes? Rabid foxes.
Rabid foxes.
Yeah,
okay.
Rabid foxes. Because basically once you get to the point to where it's like, I mean, there's, and I'm not going down the political rabbit hole because I'm actually very apolitical, but I'm fairly observant. So I see a lot of stuff that's happening, even in this community, this encroachment from people who are used to living a certain way and being entitled to benefits that they did not work for, moving outward from those city bases into more agrarian or agricultural communities and expecting the same treatment. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. We've been on this road for 18 years and the property crime has increased dramatically. For the first time since we've been here, I actually have to make a conscious effort to lock my vehicle, right? I actually have to make a conscious effort to make sure I leave a couple dogs loose in the house because so many people have decided that, oh, this looks like an easy mark. The windows are low to the ground. I can get in it easy. Well, then you're going to have to get through with a couple of dogs that are in there that are going to probably potentially try and stop you. But the thing is, though, is it's the same. You can't, and it's really very disheartening for me personally, because I'm kind of a freewheeler. I mean, I'm like, I like everybody until they decide that they don't like me, and then I don't care about them anymore, right? Come at me, okay, that's fine. I'm built to dance that way. I don't have a problem with I often choose violence and I'm good with it, right? When I go into town with my husband to get fuel, I'm looking all around while he's pumping because we don't know whether or not we're going to, because it's happened. It's happened in this community. It's happened a mile, not even a mile and a half from my house, right? So it's like, it's imperative not only for people to be a little bit more conscious of what's going on around them, but of the relationships you cultivate, because you just don't know. You just don't. And I'm a homebody. I stay home. We had, I can't remember how long ago it was. It might be close to a year now. I had some guy just stroll right through my house.
Really? Damn.
Perfect. And the funny thing is one of my dogs just exploded when the guy walked through the door, and I think he saw the dog and turned around and walked back down the hill. At the same time, my husband is texting me from the driveway saying, who the hell is here? And I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't aware that anybody was here. And then when I got up, I look out, I see the guy walking down the hill, and I'm going, I don't even know who this cat is. He was looking for someone. And like I said, we've lived in this house now for almost 2 decades. He was looking for someone he alleged to my husband's like he used to live here like 6 years ago. And I'm like, no, nobody lived here since 2006 except us. So I don't know what you're talking about, right? But ultimately, he made up some fake story. Come to find out, he left us with a piece of information. He's actually a sex offender here in Carroll County. They have him on the sex offender registry. And so, needless to say, we contacted the police and said this guy breached our house, had absolutely no reason for being here. And so I was doing the Charlie's Angels thing. I was carrying in my own house for days after that because I was afraid this cat was coming back.
Well, and I think it's natural, and let me finish the story too about the chicken coop. I went back there one day and I look around there and there was like a big old groove laid around that whole chicken coop, and it was big paw prints. And this animal predator was walking around this chicken coop. And that's one of the things that I like about social media is just like what you're saying is we have a local source. And the thing that I do use, especially these Facebook pages for, and I've actually found it. Let me show you this. So I posted up once I got those cougars on the game cam, I go straight to the community page and check this out. Here's the cougars. Here's one of them. And look at over here. So we have 11,000 views, right?
Wow.
And then we have 150 comments from all my neighbors here. And they're wanting to know, like, with the comments, I'll show more comments. Like, where is this at, right? And so many people are like, such good to see. They're tagging other people. A single cougar is one thing, right? And so they live there. And this is literally 500 feet from my front door here. Okay, and let me play the video while I'm doing this too, so you can see. There's one, and I'm like, oh, cool, there's a cougar. And I'm like, wait a second. And then I'm watching this other one because at first I was like, did my there's three.
No, there's still one off. There's a third one.
Right. And I thought that the video glitched and that was showing the same one over and over and over again. And like why I've stopped walking my dogs late at night. Thanks for tagging, or thanks, this was close. And people are wanting to know exactly where this is.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're like, and then one lady's like, oh, these guys got one of my goats. My friend was out in her hot tub, and there's a cougar right there looking at her hot tub. Right.
Oh man.
And so this is no joke. And that's what I like about the social media stuff, is that we can actually alert our local community about threats in the area. And just like with the cougars and with the bears and stuff like that, even though it's cool to see, we also alert, hey, at 2 a.m. I was on my way to work and I saw this black truck there with some unsavory individuals in there. Here's what the black truck looks like. And people dumping trash. And just there's people out there that are bad people, man. And to not know about, look at that. Wait, let me do. Like, to not know about the people that are bad and is an advantage to the bad person. Like they can do harm much more readily, much more easily if you don't have the spatial awareness, the environmental awareness, if you don't know what you're looking for and don't know that people are capable of darkness. And I think this goes back to what we were saying about looking at the brutality of what's out in the world instead of a curated aspect of it that is meant to appeal to your emotion. And I think also, Linda, that we are mirrors, right? So there's a thing called mirroring behavior. And so if you are a good person, you naturally think everybody else is a good person, right? And I do think that the majority of people are.
Most people are.
Right. And just based on my own experience. But there are bad people, and it's hard to fathom that there are people with ill intent. But we also have to remember too that if you're a good person, you think everybody's a good person. And if we take that same logic of mirroring, we have to know that if you're a shyster, if you're a person with ill intent, guess what? Now you think that everybody else has ill intent, right? It's natural for them to think that way too. And so we have to kind of put ourselves in that knowledge base of like, look, there are bad people, even though I'm not one. As soon as somebody shows some indications that they might be one, we need to pay attention. And not only that, the worst thing that the bad person wants, is to be found out. And so not only do we pay attention to that, but we also alert others to the threat that might be in our environment.
Yeah, and the unfortunate reality is a lot of times, and predicated on what you originally wanted our topic to be, we've already done that. When we're talking about our particular industry, before we're actually able to
keep going, I'll be right back.
Okay, there's the discovery that people are actually engaged in nefarious acts usually comes too late to have any impact. And what I mean by that is, for the most part, there's bad actors in every group. There's bad doctors, there's bad lawyers, obviously there's bad politicians, and there's bad dog trainers. And before anyone gets a bead, we have our suspicions, but we can't prove it. Or there's a situation that arises, like, it seems like virtually every month now, there's someone who calls himself a trainer, getting a foul of the law, or dogs getting hurt or dying or getting lost or whatever, or are engaged in some other nefarious BS. And as a result, that there's not enough action. I think there's not enough action on those people to prevent it from happening in the future. There's not enough of a negative consequence to deter that behavior. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic of conversation. And one of the reasons that a lot of people, when I raise the specter of some form of universal oversight, people automatically assume government, and that's not what I'm talking about at all, although it's not off the table. We need to police our own a lot better. We have to come up with some standard that people have to adhere to in order for them to call themselves dog trainers, because we're killing ourselves. We're killing
Yes.
ourselves with these bad actors where there's no consequence for their behavior, and it makes us all look bad. I mean, and I will die on that hill. There's a lot of people like, well, why should I have to be, why should I have to be monitored? Because we all eventually are going to be. And if you're not on board with the things that have to be done, you are going to be overrun by the things that will be done. And the federal government don't play. The state government don't play. And it's not about, it's not about being kind to dogs. But when I was the legislative chair for NADOI, some of the stuff that we saw coming down the pike was scary. We were able to circumvent it and prevent it from happening. But I did that for over 2 years. And let me tell you, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And if you think that you are going to be unmarred by it, I guarantee before I die, there will be legislation that governs dog trainers. And you're not going to like it.
It's going to be a necessity. Just like we were talking about how your behavior of your setter breaking the nose, like there's going to be something happen, man, that's going to cause the behavior of these animals as a necessity for the government arm to step in.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I don't want to happen, but unfortunately it's going to happen. And the focus, the general consensus is, the activities that are coming down the pike legislatively in all these different states have to do with tool use. They don't have to do with consumer bad faith. They have to do with what they consider to be protecting the consumer. And the thing is, though, is the consumer is the only one that doesn't get a vote. That's scary. That's scary. And there's a lot of trainers who are like, well, why should I have to, who's you're not the boss of me type juvenile bullshit. And it's like, well, the bottom line is this. You have someone in Chicago, something like this happened in Chicago multiple times back to back just a few years ago. There was a guy who lived illegally in some warehouse, and he had a warehouse full of dogs, and almost all of them died in a fire. He didn't have any license to operate there. He didn't have any insurance. He didn't have anything. He basically was some guy who thought that he would capitalize on people's naivete and took these dogs for boarding or for training or for whatever, was pocketing the money, and they all died. Yeah. Who does that reflect on?
The industry as a whole.
Yeah. And the ultimate reality is, all these people, and oh my God, I don't even want to go here, but I'm going to. Franchises, right? So you don't have to know how to train a dog. All you need is anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000 or $70,000 to buy into a franchise, and voila, you're a dog trainer. And then something happens. It's happened in North Carolina. It's happened multiple times here in Maryland. It's happened in virtually every New England state. It's happened in Florida. It's happened in Nevada multiple times. It's happened in Arizona. It's happened in California. It's happened all over the place, all from the same one or two different franchises. And these are not professional trainers. These are people who had enough capital or got financing to buy into the industry when it was at its peak. That was just several years ago, less than 10 years ago. And now basically it's on the decline since COVID, because so many people thought they could become dog trainers. They go to a week-long training, and all of a sudden they think they're God's gift to e-collars or God's gift to clicker training or whatever it is that they're trying to pursue. And because they think they're dog trainers, and they go out and they wreck dogs, and then people get sour, and they go to their legislator and they say, you know what, I really have a problem with this. This is what happened to my dog. And all of a sudden we're facing some really, really powerful, heavily funded lobbies to try and regulate dog training.
Yeah, just look at other countries like in the European Union, and where they ban the use of tools. Yep, and you can't use prong collars, you can't use e-collars, you can't. And what I think that people go to these systems, they go to these franchises, and they think that they found the secret, and they think that it's very simplistic instead of a very. Training a dog and existing with the dog is something that we like, and something that can be easy, especially if you have a dog that is kind of a push button dog. But the nuances and the consequences aren't realized a lot of times until a certain aspect of the environment reaches to a point. I tell people, especially as a dog trainer, like there is no finish line here, man. I'm always learning. I'm always reading books. I like reading the old books, the old stuff. And I even talk to the franchise owners. I talk to people, and you know what? And even though there are some rough ones out there, there are some good ones that have gotten into it for the right reasons. I mean, just as a numbers game, right? There's some people that have taken and transmuted their love for dogs, but they just have, they're at the surface. They're not going deep, and we need to go deep with this stuff. There is
I was just having that conversation.
You were? Hold on, let me kick some of these dogs out. So I have chicks in this other room, baby chickens.
Still has chicks in the other room, guys.
Yes, I do. I've like 13 of them right now.
What does your wife have to say about that?
Who cares? She's not home. No, she's the one that's taking care of them.
Go take care of your chicks.
Yeah, so let me get these dogs out of here, and they just knocked down the baby gate that I had set up there. So I'll be right back, but let's get into the surface area, and I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
All right.
Come here. This one, Maple, and Alder.
All right. So while we're here, let's answer some questions. You don't have to know what a cow is or how to milk her to own a dairy queen. Andy, the reason I quit, I'm not going to go into it. It had nothing to do with Nadoy. It had everything to do with me. My time is not my own. For the last year, I've really been struggling with time management because I have a lot of balls in the air. A lot of personal balls, which don't require being, I am not at liberty to discuss those things as openly here. Hi.
Well, you have chick, or I have chicks, and you have balls. So let's go to the comments.
Real quick. I have balls. They're so big, I wear them on my chest. No, it's just, I have a lot of personal things going on right now, and I just can't separate myself. Nate, Gretchen, I love you guys. How you doing?
Yeah, Nate and Gretchen from Iron Oak. And Nate and I are going to be doing we're going to be doing a Patreon exclusive where we're going to talk about bird hunting and how to access lands and how to access maps. And so that's going to be for my hunting people. Speaking of hunting people, we have Josh here. What's up,
Hi,
Mofo?
Josh.
What's up, Mofo? We have Johnny. Johnny is the man.
Johnny. Hi,
Johnny just had surgery. He just got a brand new knee.
Yeah.
And so that's coming out, and he's
I need a brand new head.
Well, Neuralink is coming too. So looking forward to catching this later. What's up, Jonathan, Gretchen, and Nate there, Iron Oak. Why did you quit the lake chair at Nadoy? And people that don't know, Nadoy stands for National Association of Dog Obedience Instructors.
Yeah, I just explained that. I have a lot of personal things going on right now, that I'm not basically going to take up all this time to discuss over Bill's generous offer for me to come onto a live with him. So it has nothing to do with Nadoy. They're a great organization, but my time is not my own, nor will it be, at least for the next 18 months to 2 years.
Well, and it reminds me, like, there's a couple things too, like we need a council. It reminds me of the Tolkien, right? J.R.R. Tolkien, when the elves and the dwarves and the tall men and the hobbits got together to figure out what to do with this ring, and so they put the Council of Elders. Yeah, and so I think that's missing in this. We need some elders to get together in a respectable council. Of course, we have like IACP now. We have these organizations, but they don't really have any teeth or any real big influence that they need to have for people to follow their advice. There's
another agency that you're missing. The one thing about dog training is everyone gets a Malinois and thinks they're a working dog handler. Everyone gets a retriever and thinks they're, a top field trial pro. And their next step is to go out and get a 10 dog, a 10 box trailer or something like that. And the thing is one of the things that I find just so demotivational, and it happens all the time. And I know that there's people on here who are not commenting, who are watching, who are going to refute this. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit. I've been doing this for enough years that I really don't care anymore. Young people come into this, or new people. I'm not even going to say young people, because for a lot of people entering into dog training, it's a second or third tier job. They treat it as a gig, gig industry that they can passively make money off of doing easy things. And they skate. I had this conversation earlier with a colleague of mine that about several individuals that are of our acquaintance. And basically, I made the comment that one of them simply does not have the scope to call themselves a professional trainer. And the reason why is because the same problems keep surfacing. The same issues keep arising with dogs that they've handled. And it's like, this is not, it serves nobody. It's not that they're damaging the dogs, but they're not really improving the dogs either. And for the most part, I consider it to be a level of lowering expectations that are just outside of my, how to say this kindly. It's not something I want to deal with. It really isn't, because there are certain people that you work with, whether they're trainers or whether they're owners, that they really have the sense of scope. They have the feel. They know what's necessary in order to make improvements, right? We all experience that. There are people who kind of go through the motions because they feel they have to. And then there's people who are like, they're reading a recipe and they just go by the recipe. They don't care that their guest might prefer a little bit more salt or a little bit less pepper or a little bit more spice. They just basically do the book thing, and which a lot of people I find just hilariously funny. You know, I train sitting down with a book. Yeah, pretty much. That's true, because I can. I've been doing this for 52 freaking years. I can tell you exactly how to do everything. But the bottom line is these people, there are certain people in this industry that simply don't have the feel, the scope, the wherewithal, the bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, to go past a certain level, right? So, and you know, if all you ever want to do is handle purebred puppies from optimized litters, that's fine. But when you can take a 7-year-old pit bull and put a novice title on them, then we can talk, right?
Yes.
But the problem is a lot of these people come into this field thinking, this is good enough. This is all I need to know. And that's not true. It's not. I had, like I said, you know, I'm very proud of the fact I've been doing this for over 5 decades. This last year, since probably September, I've had 3 of the most difficult animals I have ever handled in my career in my house. All of them were under the age of 6 months.
Holy smokes.
Right. One of them was a German Shepherd puppy that was bred by some asshat in the Midwest. Clearly a puppy mill dog. And if it wasn't for the fact that she had the most precious brain I have ever encountered in an animal, I would have basically counseled for euthanasia. Right.
Okay.
She was so malnourished and so decrepit when this woman got her, paid good money for her. And then she basically, when she had the dog for less than a day and realized that she had bitten off more than she could chew, she had made prearranged, to have this dog trained at a specific age to start with a trainer that is way east of me. I'd never heard of these people before, who got her for $2,500, non-refundable. And when she called them with the problem that she was experiencing, these are people who advertise in big, big letters, we can train any dog, right? We can solve any problem, until it came to this one. And they're like, yeah, no, Moss, we can't do that, right? Then give her money back. So she called us desperate, and she's like, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. It took me 3.5 months to do it. Right. And the thing is basically, I've never in all my life, I have never heard that kind of anguish come out of an animal in my life, ever. And it was heartrending. It would bring me to tears. It brings me to tears thinking about it. That's how awful this dog's life was. Right. But we made her a dog. We made her a good dog. One of the pictures on one of the dog training groups that I still belong to was of her getting a pup cup. Right. She's always going to be undersized. She's always going to, look like the Biafran, child from sub-Saharan Africa who hasn't had a meal in years, but her coat is lush. She's in beautiful physical condition. She's just this teeny tiny tropical, minuscule little German Shepherd, right? She's perfect in every way, shape, or form, except she's just incredibly tiny, right? But she is probably one of the most hardest working, most willing, most impressively intelligent animals I think I've ever worked with. Right? On the back of her came another one. Puppy mill dog, was raised on hardware cloth, never knew how to go to the bathroom on grass, and he just went home after 4 weeks. Thank God he was young because he adapted, but it took us 3.5 weeks to get through to him. Again, just corrupted by parasites. No one thought to check for. And after we got him through that, he was able to actually make sense of the fact that, oh, I guess I can tell people before I go to the bathroom. Oh, I guess I can learn how to hold my bowels and bladder. But these are things that people don't want to do. They don't want to do the hard work. They want to do the easy stuff. They want to do the clickers and the treats and teach dogs to walk their hind legs up walls and all this other cutesy stuff that people find impressive. But for the most part, your average pet owner looks at that and says, what the hell am I going to use that shit for? I need my dog to stop chasing the neighbor kids. I need my dog to stop pissing in my house. I need my dog to stop trying to aggravate my wheelchair-bound father when he comes over to visit for Thanksgiving dinner. I need my dog to stop raiding the counters. And I think a lot of lip service is given to this is easy when in fact it overlooks the vast majority of problems that actually cause those things in the first place. And I would like for someone to tell me what those things are. I know you know. I'm sure there's people in the audience that know.
But it's also right. But it's also, I think that it's also that good enough mentality of like, okay, I'm finished. I know how to train dogs.
Exactly. And I can teach it to sit. I can teach it to lie down. And this is an argument that I used to have with people and still do to some degree. That dog, if he understands the meaning of the word sit, knows that sit means above all else. Knows that if I drop that crown roast in front of your schnozzle, if you look at it cross-eyed, you're going to be corrected for your failure to sit. That's what that means. But people are like, well, that's just rote obedience. No, it's not. Right? I get up every morning, bad hip and all, and I go to work every day. Right? I drive hours. I write. I work dogs. I do as much as I can as long as my body is tolerant of those things. And then I stop and then I direct from my director's chair. Right? But the thing is, though, is it's not a matter of mailing it in because this is good enough. That onus cannot be on the owner if you cannot instruct them sufficiently. If you cannot validate the reason you do these things, you should not be training dogs. End of discussion.
Yeah, and validate it in a way that they truly understand. And that might take analogies. That definitely is not going to take college level understanding of behavior. And that's one of the things that I don't like about these systems is like, look, you're speaking over your clients. Your clients could give a shit about your certification. They can give a shit about the way that you're describing this. They need your help. And just like we were saying, that behavior is requiring a necessity for this to be fixed. And so you need to have within your bag of tricks and knowledge and eclectic base where you can speak to a variety of people and understand a variety of dogs so that you can make the connection where they understand not only what they're dealing with, but how they got there. I mean, I think that's important too. Like, look, this is what you are thinking, and this is how we got to this place where you're calling me. Here's how we get out, and here's how we stay out.
Right. And that's the thing. The other thing is, this is one thing that's disturbed me for years and years and years is, and you said it early, you said it better than I think I've ever heard it. And you said something about it's an ongoing process, but the way you phrased it was perfect.
No finish line. There's no finish line here.
Finish line.
Once you feel like go ahead.
I'm sorry. When it comes to learning, there's no finish line. When it comes to training, there's no finish line. This isn't something, as my friend Nate, Iron Oak Dog Company, I stole it from him. Basically, he says dog training is not something that you do to a dog. Dog training is something that you do with a dog. And it's like right now, I have 4 of my dogs currently learning do not shit in my office. How am I teaching them that? They're in their crates right now because I can't be I can't be pulled apart. We had an accident yesterday. One of my dogs decided she needed to go to the bathroom and didn't tell anybody. So she came upstairs and she pooped in my office. I'm like, thanks for that message. I appreciate that. So she doesn't get access to the office anymore. Right.
Well, it's important to know that even as, seasoned trainers, like I just had my dogs knock down the chicken.
We're
like,
not perfect.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, this isn't a utopia. Like, it's still a management thing, but it's also like, that's the training aspect is a lifelong conversation that you have with your dog. And just as my dogs are getting older, like I have a dog that when I have her free range at night, she's decided, or her bowels have decided, that it's okay to poop over in the corner of the house. And it's like, well, once it's happened consistently, she's now trained herself, just like we were talking about training our dogs. Like, we can hold our bowels, we can do this. Well, now her bowels have realized, oh, okay, cool. It's kind of training that's gone the other way.
Yep.
And so it's important to know, like, this is not just, not just set it and forget it. We're done. We got it all figured out. It's like, no, we're always learning. Just like you said, I've been training dogs 50 years and I got the most extreme cases I've ever had. And I tell people, especially dog trainers, and not just young dog trainers, like you said, because there's people that have just gotten into this that are my age or older, and it's something that they have a passion for, or something that they've enjoyed. And so now they want to kind of make, I call it, that they turned it into a jobby, which is a job hobby, right? And as long as you know your limitations, but once you think you have it all figured out, you're dead in the water. You're going to get bit in the ass. This is like, there's people that are killed. There's people that are maimed. There's people that, like, some of these dogs are no joke, man. I had a Cane Corso that I'll talk about that scared the crap out of me as a professional. And I'm like, dude, I'm not getting near this dog. I got to go. Here's your money back. Every penny of it.
Thing. While we're on that subject, let's kind of talk about that a little bit, because I don't have mixed feelings about anything, but I have feelings about that whole working with dangerous dogs. I did for years. I don't anymore because I'm old and I'm fat and I'm slow. I make no bones about that. I do not have a problem with people who use muzzles. I have a problem with people who think that using muzzles is a bad thing. There's a lot of really young, very pretty girls who are involved, and even the guys. I mean, I'm not being sexist here, but as a woman, I think like a woman when it comes to certain things. And one of those is preserving our flesh. And I'll be honest with you, I think if you don't muzzle condition dogs, if you don't teach owners how to muzzle condition their dogs, if you walk into a scenario where there's a dog who's dicey and you don't choose to use a muzzle, that's on you. And I have, there's like all kinds of bullshit surrounding the use of muzzles, that, a dog will never learn how not to act on a muzzle, or once the muzzle is taken off, which is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And the thing is when it comes to human versus dog, I'm always going to err on the side of human. I'm sorry. I think that people deserve better from their service providers. I think that if the person has pushback about using muzzles, it's our job to explain to them why they're necessary. And in a situation where you're taking a dog to another care provider, boarding kennel, groomer, veterinarian, whomever, and they advocate for using a muzzle, let them use it. Whatever is going to make someone else feel more confident and more safe, let them do it. At the same time, when that happens to the person that's handling the dog, guess what happens to the dog? They start feeling less defensive. But hey, who am I? It's come up a lot of quite frequently in the last couple of weeks, and it's just so tiresome to hear these people argue, well, you're not a dog trainer if you use a muzzle. Honey, I got news for you. If I frickin' quit tomorrow, you still have 50-some years to catch me.
Yes, you do.
Sitting on my ass, working part-time for the last year, I've still worked over 40 dogs by myself from my chair with my book.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we're talking today. You are somebody that I respect in the dog world. And the beautiful thing about these conversations is the people tuning in, and hopefully people glean knowledge. And just like Pete just said something I needed to hear. Let's go. Like, share this, you guys. Share this, and let's get some more people.
Chrissy has a comment too.
Chrissy. So let's get into Chrissy. The only thing that should and could be explained is how we got to this point in our lives as trainers that's relatable to our students, because we were all in their spot before.
Yeah. The vast majority of people who become dog trainers had a dog that they had trouble with, and they hired a trainer. That dog's problems were resolved to some degree, and that person looked at that dog and said, shit, I can do that.
Or they hired a trainer that didn't know what they were talking about. They told them to euthanize the dog, and they're like, I love this dog. I will do whatever it takes. Yeah. So they went on their own, found another trainer that actually fixed the problem, or did research or studied in these groups or whatever, learned about muzzles, learned about e-collars, learned about how to manage this dog. And then they realized that there's a void in the industry, and they stepped up to fill it. And that's it too, is like, and as far as muzzle training is concerned, like that's one thing that I think the French got right. Like, you're welcome. There's a lot more dogs in French world. Like, you could bring your dog to a lot more restaurants and stuff like that.
Period.
Right. But if somebody in that restaurant is uncomfortable, you have to muzzle your dog. And even if the dog is perfectly a push button, lovely animal, the dog still needs to be muzzle trained, because somebody in the environment of that private business is uncomfortable. And so not only does it, we can make a dog less defensive, then we can make other veterinarians less defensive of working with this dog, doing whatever they need to do, making them safe. Like, this is just an overall acceptance of the world in Europe, where I think they got it right, man. Like, muzzle conditioning shouldn't just be done for dogs that are nuts. Like, you should muzzle condition and use that as a tool, just like a leash, a collar, any tools that we have, a crate. Like, every single one of my dogs, I say kennel up, boom, they're in that kennel, happy as a clam, right? And that's not because I need it. And most of them are free range. They're all free range right now until they start acting up. But like, it's just a part of the conversation that we should be having with this species. Is like, look, this is something that is abstract, that you're going to have to get used to, because you exist now in a human world, and the human world has some requirements and contraptions that might evoke a little bit of discomfort. But as soon as you start to realize what it is, that it comes off, goes on, and that it just is what it is, very matter of fact. Then we have a much more
discomfort a little bit. Let's talk about that discomfort in people. First, we have to say hi to George. Hi, George. How you doing, bud? How you feeling?
Yeah, I'd love you, George, man. When you're ready, dude, let's do another one of these, just like the bring on the old timers. And these are the people, like, honestly, we need a council, and George would be one of them. You would be one of them. Tony would be one of them. I mean, there's so many people that have been doing this longer than George has been training you guys, longer than I've been alive. Linda's been training dogs longer than I've been alive, than I've existed on this planet. Recovering awesome buddies. Praying for you. Love you. And always just keep
and Darren, Darren's comment up there. Let people see this.
I'm praying for Jess too, George. So I know that she just had something. 100 labs in my first professional pet case was fear aggressive GSD. I was slightly underprepared. Yeah, you can be working with and that's what happens, man. It's the outlier comes in and shows you all the holes in your program.
I tell people all the time, it's like, people that are getting into, when we first moved here, I would have people, just like Margot Woods used to do. She would have salons at her place in Laurel, Maryland. And when I first moved here, I would invite people to come up and hang out. And it was like all these people who wanted to be dog trainers wanted to come up and see what it was like. So let's come up and hang out with the day, and I'll show you. It's a lot of pick and poop and cleaning crates and airing dogs so they don't make accidents in the house, and doing all this other stuff. And they would hang out until lunchtime, and then they would leave and never come back, right? Because they thought it was all playing with fluffy puppies, and it's not. There's a lot of grunge work, None of it. It's like administratively right now, it's just my husband and I. We don't do enough dogs to warrant hiring anybody. We do enough just to keep us busy. But for the vast majority of it, he's doing most of the grunt work, and I'm doing all of the admin work, right? And the discomfort of that is I constantly have to rail on my husband as if he were an employee. He's not. He's my husband. But there's things that have to be done, and there's things that have to be done in a very specific way. And if they're not, ultimately, I already know how to. I'm the one that has to take over and make it so. But the thing is, though, is people are not willing to be uncomfortable. And there's a lot of dog trainer groups that pander to people. It's like, trainers whatever their level of experience is not germane to this conversation at this point. But they start these groups and they invite all these people, and then they think that they, all these people just kind of information dump or information data mine from these groups. And they don't like hearing what they don't want to hear. So if a person makes a comment or they put up their story, whatever the problem is, and then you give them a salient answer that has worked for you not once, but thousands of times, and they get pissed off at you. And it's like, and then they get these really curt, snotty response, or they gaslight you. Like just recently I was told that I was, oh my God, all the words, I'm a horrible person. I'm condescending. I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. Maybe.
Yeah. Tough.
Don't ask the question you don't want to hear an answer to, right? Yeah. But when you sit there and start arguing, because my passive voice is actually very neutral. It's very without emotion. But then you start coming at me, and then, you get the old Irish up, and I'm going to bite you. And I'm going to bite you hard, and I'm going to hold you to the ground, and I'm going to make you squeal, uncle. Right? That's just me. That's the
don't promise me with a good. No, just kidding.
But the thing is basically, it's like I said, and I've I had one individual, tell me that someone in this particular group, which I more or less enjoy the group. I get kind of annoyed with all of the really, really inappropriate questions by a body of quote unquote professional dog trainers. Yeah, Ooga Chukka, buddy. You got that right. But basically, they get really offended when you tell them the truth. And then they they make it sound like you're the bad guy. And I had an individual tell, a third party that they had blocked me because I was mean to them. I asked me if I give a shit now.
You're going to recover from that?
Yeah, I think I'll be fine, right? And it's like, this is the one thing that people entering the trade, they, it's not only this a sense of entitlement. They go to these quote unquote schools. They go to these places and learn a lot of theory, but they don't have any practical hands-on experience. There's only one way you get that, and that's hands-on leather. That's it. You put a dog in front of you, you work it from beginning to end. And you do that enough times until it becomes this mechanical thing that you can do with your eyes closed and your hands tied behind your back. After a while, you do see everything, but it becomes a matter of degree, right? And I love intellectual challenges, but when someone comes to me and says, I have an 8-week-old puppy and I don't know how to housebreak it, I'm like, you're in the wrong business. You're in the wrong business. Yeah. You can go online and search housebreak a puppy and come up with 42,000 different ways to housebreak that puppy. And all of them are good. All of them. And it's like, all you have to do is the work. And if you don't want to do the work, you shouldn't be in this business. And I told Mark Goldberg, 1,000 years ago, I don't housebreak dogs. I put them on a time schedule of elimination. I do not housebreak dogs. This is my home. Your dog is not coming into my home and using it as a toilet. Yeah, your dog will be in my home. Your dog will be, at large in my, well, he won't be at large. Your dog will be on a leash in my home with supervision 24/7, but your dog will not have an opportunity to relieve itself in my house ever. Yeah. And that reason why it's like, I've owned 60, 70 animals throughout my career, personal animals. I've bred dozens of litters of multiple different breeds. I've never had a dirty dog ever.
Yeah.
Whether I got them as adults with housebreaking issues, whether I got them as baby puppies and raised them myself, whether I bred them and had them from cradle to grave, I've never had a dirty dog. Why? Because I don't let them be dirty. It's not that difficult. But when someone professes to be a professional trainer and says, this is work I can't do, I'm sorry, I have no time for you. None.
Well, and if you're not comfortable with being, well, let me put it this way. Discomfort is a necessity in this industry. And if you're not uncomfortable, or if you're not comfortable with being uncomfortable as an individual, then you need to get out of the industry too, man, because look, you're going to hear shit that you're not going to want to hear, and know that, but you should be able to take criticism, and especially from the OGs, the people that have been in this. Like I remember Tony Anchetta one time was like, I thought I was doing it all right, and I wasn't, and he let me know, man, like this is what are you doing type of thing, but it's also like, you're going to make this animal uncomfortable, and you're going to make this animal be comfortable with being uncomfortable to a degree. And so if you're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, then what the hell are you doing? Because this is part of this. This is part of that learning process, is that we gain strength through struggle, and not just with the struggle of understanding, but the struggle of applying and processing what you've understood, and then being able to apply it in a manner that is effective, efficient, and also translatable to another person, right? Where you become a teacher, right? And so this is and just like we were saying, like, I can do audiobooks, no problem, man. Like I'll sit and put on an audiobook, right? And then but you can't. There's people that are visual learners, there's people that are tactical learners, there's people are tactile learners, there's people that are that have to see it all written out. And I ask that for my clients too. Like I do, especially for my high-end clients. I want them to know this so well. And so I want to know how each individual learns. And if I need to go and put up a little thesis of everything that we have just talked about and type it all out in a way that is tailored specifically for them, for their case, and to go back through every step that we have done, and so that they have a better understanding, I'm doing that. And guess what? I don't like doing that, but it's something that I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable with writing, and I'm better at it now because I've done it.
Because you practice it.
Because I practice it. And just like with the reading, right? I'm dyslexic, but I forced myself. I'm going through the 100 books that everybody should read when they die. And guess what? I'm getting better, man. And I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if we're doing this, then I think that it's not only a disservice, but I think it's unethical to not practice what you preach. So you have to be uncomfortable. You have to put yourself. Discomfort is mandatory.
Put George's comment up. We impart what we know through generosity. Right, ooh, that right there. And it's like, and I've been recently, very recently, aggressively attacked over this. I give my stuff away every day. 100% of every day. Every time I answer a question online, I'm giving you free information. And what really pisses me off is when I answer a question, and I know you've done this, and I know everybody, Summer, I know for a fact has done it. Tony, I'm pretty sure has done it. Tony, George, I'm pretty sure has done it. Everybody here who has a presence online. I had someone have the unmitigated gall to actually ask me to repost something I had already written because they didn't have time. They were busy. And I'm like, bitch, what do you think I am? I took time out of my 14-hour Tuesday, which is every Tuesday and has been for years, 14 hours minimum a day on Tuesday, to create this information for you. And you want me to repeat it? No, you go fish.
Yeah. And
she blocked me. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Spoon feed you? You have to pay me to do that. I have outlined everything you need to do. Now you need to actually do the work.
Yeah. I don't owe you shit.
I'm sorry.
It's like, I don't owe you shit. That just speaks to the entitlement of some people that come into this thinking that like it's owed. And I get it. Like, this will help puppies and dogs. And I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, this is where that struggle comes in, where you need to gain strength through the struggle, and you need to find this shit out on your own. And not only that, but let that show your determination, and let that show like that you have some gumption to figure this out. I'm going to go. What were you saying too? I didn't want to.
No, I mean, it's just, I think it's unfortunate that people seem to think that, first of all, go to Elizabeth Marshall's comment.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
I think that it's really, really unfortunate that people think that anything about this job is easy. It's not easy to learn. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to maintain the stamina necessary in order to succeed, regardless of whether you choose to remain a companion animal trainer that helps people, or if you actively choose to pursue some very specific, very disciplined sport. It requires effort that is beyond the scope of bearing children over a lifetime of work. And
Wow.
basically, it's very, very painful. And people have a tendency to last in this profession between 3 and 5 years, and then they're
Yeah.
out. And the reason they're out is because what happens is they encounter that one dog that changes their perspective about everything. And if they're not willing to accept, if you don't want to learn from me, I guarantee you that you're going to find a dog that you will absolutely learn from. If you're not prepared for that lesson, put the leash down, walk away, get another job someplace else.
Yeah, and I want to read this comment for people that are just listening. Some people don't watch the video, but they listen in the background. So Elizabeth Marshall says, hardest and most rewarding lesson I learned after starting my journey as a trainer is the learning never ends. Amen. Have to put your pride aside in the industry and be open-minded and always willing to question what you previously thought was the way, quote unquote. I think young dog trainers take for granted the amount of talented, experienced trainers we have at our fingertips to learn from. Amen.
Absolutely.
And that's why I do these conversations with it's like I've learned so much, and selfishly, I do these conversations so I can continue the learning process on my own, right? And so that's the key is and you know what? This is a heartbreaking process too, because once you find a different way, you're like, dude, I did that dog wrong. I did the dog in the past wrong. Like I often say on these live streams, the most powerful thing that we can say as individuals is I was wrong. And that takes lowering down that ego, lowering down that pride, and just being open for new information and new ways of approaching a problem that might be more effective. And it breaks my heart, man, because I'm like, dude, I overcorrected that dog, or I didn't understand what that dog was trying to tell me, or there's so many cases that I literally when I say that when I get to heaven, and I've had an argument with my priest that dogs do in fact go to heaven. I'm like, he's like, it doesn't say that in the Bible. I was like, it doesn't not say that in the Bible.
I'm going where the dogs are. I don't care about any of it. I'm going where the dogs are.
I've got so many apologies to these dogs to make, man. And I pray, but I also know that they forgive. And just like the forgiveness aspect of what I've learned is, I just trust that they forgive me. But the most important thing is that we have to forgive ourselves too of this, and know that we're striving to do better. And we owe it to these dogs. We owe it to do the best that we can and to be the highest level that we can. To me, Jack is that one dog. Yep. Elizabeth says exactly. That dog came early on and had me in tears, questioning everything. Had to stick it to it and find a mentor to help. Yep. And
I tell this story a lot. I don't think I've ever told it as publicly as I'm about to, but I'm going to go for it. I had already been training dogs for several decades, and I went to work for Pat Nolan. I came home every day in tears, and my husband's like, why do you do this? And I'm like, because I can't not do this. And he's like, why do you cry? And I said, because I thought I knew how to train dogs. Right. And I tell this all the time. I say it all the time. I have been training dogs for over 50 years now. I've only been good for about the last 20. Okay. And the reason for that is because I became a lot more self-aware about my responsibility, not only to the animal and to the people I serve, but to myself to be better every day. And one of the things that I do, and and this, like we talked before we went live, Bill and I had a really interesting conversation about reading. I'm a voracious reader. I tell you what, if I could read and lose weight, I would be so goddamn thin it wouldn't even be funny.
Do it on a treadmill. No.
I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Are you kidding me? Anyways, be that as it may, one of the things that I promise myself every day is I learn something new every day. Every day. I force myself to learn something new. Mm-hmm. Whether it's about dogs, whether it's about tariffs, whether it's about the stock market, whether it's about something, I remain and will until the day I die, unless my brain leaves me, intellectually curious enough to research something that I do not understand or never heard of. I have the world's most powerful tool in my hand. I use it every day. My husband and I will be sitting 2.5 feet from each other, and he'll text me stuff and I'll read it, and I'll go down that rabbit hole and I'll start researching stuff. And I'm like, I never in my life thought that I would I've always liked learning, but I never thought that I would ever escape my little sphere of, nature and animals and history, to learn other things. Right. And I have to, this freaking mess over here. I have boxes of books everywhere. I actually have to go through all of my books, and I have to cut some.
Get a Kindle.
Right. I have to cut some, not only because they no longer serve me, but I don't have room for them. I want more books. I need new books.
Yep.
I can put a whole bunch of stuff on this. Well, there we go. We'll put it there so you can see it. I can put a whole bunch of stuff on that and have availability to read all the time, but I still value that physical book in my hand, the smell of the paper, of the ink and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter what it is that I read. I can't not read. So I'll read a cereal box if it's the only thing available, right? I used to read the newspaper front to back. Since we don't have newspapers anymore, I'm on my phone constantly, and I'm not like scrolling on YouTube or scrolling on Facebook. I'm researching stuff. Someone will say a word. I'm like, I've never heard that word before. I'll go look it up. Someone will make some statement or some comment, and I'll go research who's the one that said it first, right? Because I am indebted to myself to know these things, because it's important for me to know them. So when it comes to sharing that knowledge, and George is the same way. We give this stuff away. I'm sure there is not a trainer here who hasn't at one point or another just sat there and just mouthful-glurged all of the information in one giant conscious streaming sentence. And people looked at him like, what kind of crack are you smoking?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, we talked earlier about analogies and finding ways to be able to communicate to other people that are not us, that are not in our field and don't understand the way we understand. And basically, it's like that's the search that we have to be on constantly to enable other people to understand what it is that we're trying to do and why. Dogs, horses, children, spouses, whatever, right? I think we overcomplicate stuff, and I think it makes it kind of unnecessary. And then people get trapped by words. And it's like all these new people, and I'm not going to throw Tracy under the bus. She runs a really good Facebook group, the Dog Trainers Lounge. And recently there were several conversations, of which, of course, again, you have this influx of people who have a single dog experience. They are not professional trainers. And then you have people who fabricate histories who have only been trainers for a couple of years. And basically they're like, who here has not heard of Stephen R. Lindsay?
Right.
Okay. So we're making references about work that has been we were specifically tasked with finding evidence that this stuff is still being used. And so we showed it. And one of the comments was, well, these are black and white pictures. It looks like it's very old. And it's like, it's 2005, dude. First of all, black and white pictures, having been in the printing industry, having worked at a book bindery, it's cheaper to print in black and white than it is in color. Right? So there's that. But because it came from 2005, it's outdated material.
Yeah.
How do you like that, George?
It reminds me of 1984, George Orwell, of like the material's always changing. Pat Legend, and let me shout out to Pat Nolan. I've messaged him, and I want him on one of these live streams. So Pat, please come on. He's a busy man. I know.
He's a wonderful.
He will. And if you tag him or whatever, let me know so he can see. I'll message him again. And then one thing too that we have to realize is that there are good things about the innovations. There are good things about technology. There are good things, and I'm still like, I love my Kindle. Like, so that's why I'm saying, like, get a Kindle. The 32 gig Kindle, the new one that they just came out with. Kindle,
I'm analog.
Yeah, there's a Keeler book. And let me put a picture, or let me put a link to Handbook of Applied Dog Behavior, Lindsay, that we're talking about here. Because look, and I love it when I get my hands on these old books. And I love it when I just talked to Tom Rose.
I saw that. I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Yeah, we'll do another one because he's having some issues, and he had some X-ray results and stuff come in. So we're going to be doing another one, and I've chatted with him on the phone, and I'm so honored, man. Like, and be able to talk to Tom about going to Bill Keeler's school, right? And we chatted about that a little bit. Like one thing to remember, folks, is that there's a couple things about what we do that is very important, that we never ever forget this. Number one, the dogs reach into every corner of the human experience, right? And so there are people that are billionaires that have dogs. There are people that live on the streets that have dogs. There are people all around the world that experience dogs in their life. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing to remember is that these dogs have been around since the beginning of our civilization, and it's been argued we wouldn't be where we are as far as the evolution of the dog, right? Look behind Linda. Look at the cave writings and stuff of way back when it was argued that we would be taken from a nomadic existence of like Linda has on the back there with the people moving around, picking up camp, going to another area. That dogs allowed us to become horticultural pastoral. So now we have dogs to help us manage our livestock. We have dogs that would be, the eyes and ears, like what you were saying about, having people come on the property and being an extra set of eyes and ears, or being a deterrent to a threat that's coming our way. So that's another way that dogs have helped us evolve, by alerting, being guard dogs. And then we have so many jobs, man. That's the other thing. I love reading these old books about carting and the way that the milk was delivered in Europe with these dogs, and then we have the Saint Bernard, and we have dogs that have these jobs have become obsolete with the technological revolution. But never forget, like, this has always existed. This isn't a novel experience that we're having right now today. Now we have different tools that allow us communication that might be a little different. But never forget the foundation of the training and the foundation of the communication that has been always part of the human existence.
Well, they say that, and I would imagine there's quite a few horsemen in our audience, and there's this saying that's been around for a long time. It says, history was written on the back of a horse, and I amended that a long time ago and said, yeah, but it was led by a dog. Because there is no time throughout history, from the time we crawled out of the frickin' primordial ooze, where we weren't reliant on dogs for something, whether it was information, whether it was, the ability to locate and find game, whether it was, companionship or first warning system or whatever. We have always been in the company of dogs, always. And we owe them our attention. We really do. It's funny because I think it's just odd that, considering the fact that dogs have been such a thread throughout the fabric of our existence, that they've only been really aggressively researched in the latter part of the last century and into this one. Yes. They've been a part of our lives since before we could write or read or had an alphabet. But all of a sudden now we're starting to get there's starting to be more movement in understanding them. Like, we've always understood them. I think science makes it difficult to remember that we always understood them. There's a lot of, I think the trappings of the scientific language has made it difficult for people to relate to dogs. And I think that there is a movement to make dogs less than they are. I think that animals personally are a lot more intelligent than people give them credit for. As a person that I knew many years ago, Catherine Nelson, she's a geneticist, PhD geneticist. She used to work for UC Davis. I think George will probably remember. A couple of people probably remember who she is. She used to say that, people put all this notion that, the separation between humans and animals is the ability to use tools. She's like, if that's the case, then dogs were the first tool users and we were the first tool.
Yeah.
I agree with her 100%.
And I think that not knowing that these dogs know of a greater degree than we give them credit for is a disservice to the animal, and is also a dislike of the animal too, in aspects. And one thing that blew me away was I was watching this interview with an Iditarod trainer, and I looked him up, and he passed away in 2022. And he was talking about how dogs don't know just commands. Dogs know full sentences in a way.
Yeah.
Like I go up and I myself, based on my own experience, I think that dogs understand intent, like the verbalization and the monkey chatter that Nelson Hodges calls it, that we do is more for us to verbalize. But I think that the intent behind our verbalization, and he would speak full sentences to his dogs, and he knew by their acknowledgement that they understood exactly what he was saying. And it reminds me of the time when I was a young kid, and working on the ranch in Idaho, and watching this blew my mind. I didn't realize dogs were capable. My grandfather at the time said to the dog, Duke, go find them. We were looking for heifers that we needed to put into the barn because it was still winter and they were pregnant and they were calving. And so it was still really cold. And the dog ran off, and a few hours later came back with a line of heifers.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, how is it? I remember being dumbfounded in that field. And that's what sparked what started me today. It's like, that was the initial influence that I have, that I always go back to as a youngster, realizing that, man, I mean, first off, I knew that adults didn't know everything. I was like, I remember that wherewithal of like, wow, man, they don't know everything. Like I know this.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. And then also just having these experiences that have always stayed with me. And I think that that's important to remember this stuff. Like, look, we don't know it all. And the dogs are capable, because I've seen it with my own eyes, of what we give them credit for. And that's it. It's like, look, that's the importance of coming together and, forming the council that I'm convinced we need a council, man. Maybe I'll work on that. And Andy, I want to go way earlier comment. Andy says that, remember, the council of Lord of the Rings decided to destroy the ring rather than put it to use, right?
And so, I'm all about destroying that ring.
Yeah, me too.
Really
and it's like the ring of darkness will follow. It's like, we have to realize that that goes back to that discomfort is mandatory in this profession. Like, there is some degree of discomfort, and if you're not okay with being uncomfortable yourself, then you need to not do this, because this is something that is not only going to make you uncomfortable as you learn and struggle and gain strength, but it's also going to make the dog uncomfortable based on the degree of what you're asking of them. And
it's not. Yeah, I mean, the thing is the goal is to not make the dog uncomfortable. The goal is to help coach the dog through discomfort so that it's no longer uncomfortable.
That's
and
right.
We have, recently, and I mean, my favorite person on the face of the planet besides my husband and my son is Dave Cochran, who is a firebrand. People love him or hate him, and I don't care. He's my guy, and I'll stand by him through thick or thin. And I say we because I always think of David as us. I don't think of David as David by himself, because I spent many years working with him and teaching him things. So anytime that he is putting himself out there, he's pulling me with him. And I'm okay with that, because it's my philosophies, many of my teachings, and a lot of things that have influenced his learning and have influenced what he does. He's his own man. He's not indebted to me for a damn thing. But for the most part, when I think of I think of we. So he was involved in a conversation about some of the stuff that I do with puppies, which is, different handling techniques and things like that to get them used to, being manipulated by a veterinarian, groomer, so on and so forth. And people wanted to blame Dave, when in fact, if they actually had cognitive ability or reading comprehension, would realize that he actually was attacked pretty severely, I might add. And I thought it was really kind of unfair, because first of all, they misinterpreted what was being said and what was trying to be conveyed as what they considered it to be a restraint. It's not a restraint. It's simply a means with which to help restrain in order for the dog to learn how to accommodate restraint. There's a big difference between those two things. And they just kept on and on and on. And it's like, this is just pointless. It's an absolutely pointless conversation. It's a pointless argument. You are not willing to learn. You are not, I mean, it just got to the point where it's like, I'm dumping out. I have no more time for this. Thank God it happened on a Tuesday. Because I couldn't. I was gone from like very, very late Monday night until sometime early on Wednesday mornings. I have no time for the internet. And but it's like it's so fruitless when people walk into a conversation with their eyes closed because they already have an agenda. And it's really, really disheartening to see that it's not only, it's like, you're not the boss of me. You can't teach me anything. Okay, that's fine. If you don't want to learn, you're right. I can't teach you anything. But while we're here for a moment, take a look and see what this does. And it's like, so this Sunday we did this thing and we posted all these videos on, live from Facebook and what have you. And they got very little, if any, attention because people are so caught up in their rightness that they're not willing to see that perhaps they might be a little bit on the wrongness side. So, okay, I can't help you with that. That's no longer my task in life. I prefer to not have a heart attack. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I know when.
So, top dog.
Top dog knows mushers, right? And I want to show George's comment too. Nobody knows dogs better than long distance mushers. They risk more, have more dogs, and spend more time with a life and death sport. It's not tricky agility. It's rally or short, no risk sports. Like these mushers rely on those dogs to stay alive. Like it's a life and death. You're in a barren landscape, and it's something that we can learn. I mean, just like the retriever training comment earlier about years of training retrievers taught him how to train retrievers, right? Let me see if I can. No exaggeration. 2 years of pro retriever retriever
truck teaches you. You guessed it.
There we go. I can't talk right now. And to know too that there's a couple aspects of this to remember as humans are concerned. One, we live in the age of information right now, you guys. Like, if to remain ignorant in the age of information is a choice.
I love you, George.
Look at that. Indignation amongst the green. And that, what was I going to say? Remaining ignorant in the age of information is a choice. Oh, beliefs versus knowledge, right? We have this buffer of beliefs. Imagine a little lead encasement around your brain called beliefs.
Yep.
Right? And before anything, when new information is presented, people naturally take it, hold it up against that little buffer of belief, and then if it goes against their belief, they throw it away before they allow it into the brain.
Yeah,
right?
If it doesn't penetrate right away, they discard it.
That's right. And I see that so much. Like, people have these beliefs, and unless they realize that, and that's why I talk about this, it's like, look, we have this predetermined system of beliefs that sometimes is wrong. That's why it's important to say I was wrong, and to be open for new information, to allow that information to be deconstructed, to know what logical fallacies are. There's 42 main logical fallacies. If you guys don't know them, if you're not aware of them, go look up, study 2 fallacies a day for a month. Okay, there's more than that. That's so crazy.
What the hell?
I got my emotions turned, or my emoticons turned on here.
Oh, okay.
So study. I mean, there's way more, but there's 42 main ones. I mean, there's probably 10 really main ones, like ad hominem and appeal to authority and slippery slope and stuff like that. But go, and there's even some flashcards that you can go. So learn, and this is how you start to critically think. and to start to disseminate knowledge and start to put it into apply it to your own life, and be able to say I was wrong. A couple comments that George made. Man doesn't exist without dog, nor does dog exist without man. Right, and we have the dog is the biggest eugenics experiment on the face of the earth, man. This what eugenics came around. I have my little Maple. Maple, say hi to everybody.
Hi, Maple.
Little skipper key. She's looking for the cat.
Dude, whatever.
Like the restraining.
I got things to do.
Do you think I could do this with her without those restraint exercises? Right.
It's well, by now, yeah.
Yeah, because she's she's used to this stuff, and now I can examine her. I can have her be examined by that too. Truly believe that dog stood beside the Lord during creation. I'm stealing that.
The Lamb of God was a dog. Yes, I believe that.
Man. That's beautiful. You know, and then of course George says, and then I have my dog. I don't know if you can hear it, but my cattle dog's out there. I'll never have another cattle dog, you guys. I'm done. Cattle dogs and me. Once I've had the skipper keys, like this is, I tell them to all the time, you are my last 2 cattle dogs ever. I enjoy observing indignation amongst the green. George, you need to come back on here. Once you're feeling better, message me. I'll message you, George. And then I call it moral blockage. Bill's head exploded. That's this.
Anal blockage. It's not moral blockage. It's anal blockage.
Wait, dude. Now it's not doing it.
There we go.
My head exploded.
Woo-hoo.
All right, Adrian. Yeah, these are tribes that we were talking about. People group up and protect each other's indignation. They're called echo chambers because they are intellectually lazy. Bingo. That is, and that is intellectual laziness, man. This is the inability to get into the discomfort, the messy middle of the gap of where you are to where you want to be. This whole gap is called shit. It's called messy middle. It's called discomfort. It's called, it's there's no way around it though.
The thing is though, is basically I embrace that. I look forward to it. I mean, because the faster you go through it, the faster you get out of it. It's like, health issues. George, Adrian, I got quite a few friends that are going through some serious stuff right now, as are we. And it's like, now at the point that I've resigned myself to accepting the things that I have absolutely no impact on whatsoever. I cannot alter the trajectory of one of these things. I can only wait to see what's going to happen and how it's going to directly impact us. For those who don't know, the whole eminent domain thing with the PSEG usurping over 900 properties from Frederick County all the way up through northern Baltimore County for a power line. And our houses directly impact not only our property, but our home as well. So we're on pins and needles about that. And we have been for just under a year. We got the notification that it was going to happen, I believe, in June. And so now it's, they had to file with the state by January or by December 31st. They did that. Now it's in the appeals process. They filed incorrectly, so they have to file again. But they're ramming this through. They have power and they have money and they have the ability to make this really, really not good for a lot of people. In Carroll County, there's only 4 houses that are impacted, but I'm one of the 4 houses. So they're going to level my house, and they expect me to take a loss on it when they do it. So not only are we losing an income, we're losing our home, we're losing, all the years that we've been, at this location business. And I mean, we're in our mid 60s now. Where am I going to go? Right. So in order for me to duplicate what I do here, finding property like this that enables me to do that with the licensing and the zoning and all that other stuff is going to cost over $1 million. You give me over $1 million, I'll retire today. Right. So there's that. But basically, as a part of that difficulty we were talking about, that messy middle, it's like, I know something's going to happen. Now I'm prepared for whatever happens. So I don't have to sit there and struggle with, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's either going to be A or it's going to be B, right? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm prepared. If it's A, I know what the result is. If it's B, I know what the result is. So I'm okay with that, right? I mean, there's other alternatives. I could sell the house, and move and just retire and be done with it. But one, I can't afford to retire. And two, I don't want to retire. As long as I'm still able, Pat and I used to have this discussion. One time we were at Miller's Middle Field, and it was February and it was below zero. And we're out there training dogs like idiots. And he's like, what would you do if you couldn't train dogs? And I'm like, I'd still train dogs. And he's like, yeah, I could see myself sitting on a gurney, force fetching. And I'm like, pretty much, yeah. As long as you got a mouth, you can train dogs. And but it's like I can't imagine as I never graduated from college. I worked in corporate America for many, many years. I can't imagine me doing anything but this, anything. Mm-hmm. I can't. And it's like, so I'm going to sit on the street with my dogs in my truck and train dogs and show people that I can still train dogs when I'm a very old gray lady. Right.
Yeah. Well, and there's also coming to grips with things that you can control, the things that are out of your control, right? And sounds like you're almost there. Like there's just a bigger, I don't know, there's just something that you have to give yourself up to. What will be, and I will do what I need to do once this happens, But
I want to travel to Bill's house. Hang out on his front porch and then have John Sparks come up and we can just have a grand old time.
Yeah, totally. Anytime, man. We'll have a little party over here. I love it. You're invited. You're welcome anytime. And before COVID, I think we're making it. Well, whatever. We're still going to make it happen. So I'll let.
Yeah, we were planning something, and then all of a sudden the world ended. I mean, I had an invitation to speak in Singapore. I had an open invitation. The invitation to Canada is what made me realize that I was I was a girl without a country, and I had to go through the naturalization process for the second time in my life.
You were?
Oh yeah. I was born in Canada, brought to the United States in the 60s, and when after 9/11 and they had the whole real ID thing,
Yes, you can come over anytime.
I didn't have my birth certificate and my naturalization papers. They weren't the authentic papers. So I actually had to go through the reapplication process. It took several years and a lot of money. But basically, yeah, so I got that and I got that squared away. And by that time, COVID hit. So I couldn't go anywhere anyways. But I had plans to go to the UK. I had plans to go to Singapore. I was going to be in the UK for like a week and a half. And I was going to go to Singapore and then to Canada on multiple occasions.
That's one of the things. Like we won't even get into that, but yeah, that's one of the things that breaks my heart. Like about good people that are here. Like I do know that there is a process of naturalization, of becoming a citizen here, and I hope that people aren't through the cracks or whatever. But before, I want to get back to this, some of these comments, but then I want to get to kind of what I want to talk about here with you, Linda. So first time I did a shadow program with a mentor, I was nauseous physically at the time of new information that challenged my beliefs. That tells me that you're hovering over the target there. Like that's actually a good indication of change, right? Of your body changing itself, of getting out of that comfort zone, right? That your brain, your body's sending out these alarms going, warning, warning. We're not doing what we know, what we're comfortable with. It was uncomfortable, but I had never looked back after learning new information. Yep. It sucks to suck, but you must.
Yep. And there's nothing more freeing. There's nothing more liberating than coming out of that. And you hear people say it all the time. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And when you do that, when you go through and experience that growth, that has a lot more meaning for you. It really does. And you're like, the stars align and there's all kinds of, do your thumbs up thing. Because it's literally like your head explodes. Yeah. It's literally like that. And all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, I have seen Nirvana and Nirvana is me.
Let me see. How do I do this one?
There we go. Yep, there you go.
I love it. And it's, one thing that you got to say is like, there's no way around it, man. There's no way above it. There's no way below it. You have to go through it. Like you have to go through it. There is the journey, right? But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step and your decision to do it. And then once you have made that journey, to look back at the ground that you've accomplished, that's what's satisfying. And that's what gives you that strength that you need to carry on. And not only just carry on, but to help others, but make that journey as well. Make them mad. They drive a lot of traffic to your page sometimes. Well, and that's what we're going to talk about. So once we get through these comments, good comment, Darren. Listen before we're dead. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. We all have that. We all have that date of expiration. Nate wants you to move back up here to God's country.
We're going west, Nate.
Oh, come over this way. Come over to this.
No, we're going deep in the heart of who's had multiple felonies. Me, she went from disorderly conduct to multiple felony charges, plus she undoubtedly got herself expelled from school. I did no such thing. Who was that?
I have no clue. Somebody. Maybe that's what we get trolls sometimes, and maybe that's a troll. Working foul on as I watch this. Okay, give him a big scratch for us. That's your
handsome lad.
Yep. Somebody call ICE. Dude, shut up.
Too late. I'm legit now.
She's good. But I made two of my faves. And welcome, Amy. Watch after. Majority of the people watch these after the fact, and I'm just grateful to have Linda. And hi, everyone. Eli.
Hi, Ellie. How you doing?
And share this, you guys. What'd you say? Say it again.
I told Ellie she needs to get back to work.
See if you can do the thumbs up. See if it works for you.
I tried. It won't. Yeah.
Haha, I'm better. No.
Nah, big meanie.
So here we go. Now we're coming back here because there's a couple things that I want you to speak on, because I never saw the article, but we're about ready to talk about it. So Darren is right here, man. Like, we have to realize that there's marketers in this industry. There's people that want to get as many eyes on them. It's a numbers game, right? And we had this article, or I don't even know what it was, a meme post or something. I just saw people commenting. I didn't really look into it, about playing fetch with your dog, right? And I knew exactly what it was when I saw it. It was something to make you mad. It was something to clickbait. Clickbait, right? It's clickbait. And that's a huge aspect of this industry that we need to remember. Like, there is some things that you need to be like, oh yeah, that's clickbait. You need to recognize, excuse me, instead of engaging and giving them exactly what they want. There's a couple things to remember. Like, one, if you tell somebody that you love something, like 3 people will check it out. If you tell somebody I hate this, 13 people will check them out. Right. And so
or 800 or more.
Or 800 or more. Well, once those people start to say, I hate it too, I hate it too, I hate it too, then the whole crowd of people start to come around. And so, speak on that if you can, about, like, there is, with this technological aspect of the dog training world, there is a lot of clickbait. There's a lot of shit out there.
There is. The internet loves controversy. And let's address that article first. The first time it appeared was a while ago, a couple of years ago, actually. And it got a lot of traction then, but it kind of went away fairly quickly because, of course, there was some other event to supersede it. When it came back this time, there was a lot more pushback. I think it was rewritten by a better author, and I think that it had it got salient points simply because it was a little bit more bespoke. It was a little bit more eloquent, and I think there was a lot of. I'm sorry.
What did it say?
Essentially, the article that just recently appeared in the last week or so, basically it was just, I didn't read the whole thing, but essentially it was just kind of a regurgitation of the previous one, just by a better author. It was talking about how people have a tendency to rely on things like fetch, tug, toys, food, whatever. It didn't really matter. Fetch was the focus because a lot of people have a tendency to burn their dogs out on the retrieve, right? So, and it's just like, you can supplement that for daycares. You can supplement that for dog parks. In the pet industry, the reliance on one specific thing to kind of create some form of satiety in your dog, because you either don't have the time or the wherewithal or the ability to provide that stimulation and to provide that enrichment. So then these dogs become reliant on fetch or tug or whatever. So that becomes the main focus for the dog. So when you're going to work, you have a police dog and all he's looking for is opportunity to retrieve. He's not going to do his job. So essentially the gist of the whole article was you're ruining your dog by playing fetch. Well, no, you're not. You're ruining your dog by playing fetch and not creating boundaries around the exercise. Just like you're ruining your dog if you take him to daycare and you teach him that dogs are more important than you are, or you take him to a dog park and you teach him that the presence of other dogs. And it's like every single trainer here has seen the owner with the dog out in front, pulling them down the street because they know that the dog on the corner is going to fence fight them when they walk by.
Yeah.
Right. And so what do? As trainers, our job is to teach them to not do that. Right. We have to create value in something else so the dog doesn't see that as being a desirable behavior. We do that in multiple of ways. I mean, there's all kinds of language around how you do that, but you provide a negative consequence and then you reinforce with a positive consequence when the dog is successful. Simple, super simple. But when you have a dog who's so practiced and it's always on the table, the dog's going, I'm getting closer to my goal. Oh my God, let's see if I can get a little more fighty. And all of a sudden you have this battle and the dog is, really struggling with parsing what it is it should actually do. We complicate that by adding additional things to the equation. So here I'm going to dangle your ball or your toy or whatever. So what happens is the dog becomes reinforced for that behavior because timing just isn't good. It's not. And the vast majority of owners, the reason their dogs are not successful through positive reinforcement is because their timing is horrid. So fetch was just the most recent topic. But then all of a sudden you get this army of people coming out and saying, well, fetch isn't bad. This is that, and then all of a sudden you get this war because nature abhors a vacuum and controversy brings eyes, right? So I, for the most part, stayed out of it until people started tagging me. And I'm like, and I said the same thing 10,000 times. It's like, I don't care about the argument. I don't. It's a bullshit argument. It's essentially two people talking around each other saying the same thing. Because essentially, if all you do is fetch with your dog, then you have just made fetch more important than you, right? And it's like, all of these working dog trainers, I don't care what kind of work your dog does. I don't care if it's a performance dog or if it's a hunting dog or if it's a, police dog, paramilitary, detection dog, whatever. They all have something that they work for, right? So we use that as a ballast against what we want the dog to do. And like, again, Pat Nolan, you withhold the reward, ignore the reward in order to achieve the reward. I think Nipopo calls it look at this, then at that, or look at me, look at this, then look at me, something like that.
Indirect reward.
My phone hold on a sec.
Okay, you're good.
There we go. My computer just puts down on me. But there's a bunch of different ways where essentially the dog is fixating on that object of its desire, and then you call it away to pay closer attention to you, right? So, Keeler does it. Week 1, day 3, we start doing it.
It's a fundamental of understanding the dog, the why, right? We were talking about the why, behind the why is your power, right? And with any activity, if you overuse it, just like, then you got a cracked out dog. You got a dog that is addicted to the behavior in a bad way more than the behavior becomes the reward itself, because now they're getting reinforced with adrenaline or whatever it is,
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like, I find it kind of incongruous with the goal. Our goal is to not argue with each other. Our goal is to help people with difficult dogs or dogs with problems. So we kind of, as a race, as a species, dog trainers are just such a peculiar lot. We're the only species that we literally eat our own young. We're worse than lizards. We hatch these eggs and then we discard them and expect them to fend for themselves. And it's just like alligator mothers will carry all of their young in their mouths, right? I'm more or less an alligator mother. But for the most, and don't mess with me, man, when I'm with my babies, don't. But the thing is, though, is eventually after a while, they start biting back, right? So you kind of got to spit them out. But when we have these conversations about these particular things, playing tug, like Darren said, I'm Darren and I'm training my retriever puppy with food, and gasp a tug. It's like, and for years, retriever trainers were like, you can't play tug with your retriever. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Because there's boundaries and there's rules associated with that. And as long as you adhere to the rules, it didn't do anything. I'm like, kind of mad about that, right? 10 fingers. Oh.
There we go. Rules and structure, right?
It's sad. It's really sad that people can't see the forest for the trees. I use tug with all of my dogs. As a result, none of my dogs are resource guarders. They grab stuff, they bring it to me, and they're like, we're going to do this now, right? Okay, but I can fish stuff, nor would I ever, but I can fish stuff out of their mouths. If they have something, I can tell them out and take it from them, or I can say, bring it here and give it to me or whatever. But the thing that really disturbs me is exactly, Summer, just train dogs and quit trying to impress other trainers. And I told Mark Goldberg this many, many years ago. Other trainers are not my market. Dog owners are my market. I don't care about other trainers. I have owners tell me all the time, it's like we have a very finite area where we will travel to the owner's home. And just outside of that area, but by geography, it's 40 minutes to an hour for me to get to these people. And it's like, I'm sorry, you're out of my area. And I'll explain to them why. It's like, you can come to me. It'll save you money, right? And we have plenty of time for you to be able to do that. But I'm not driving to you because I run a big rig and it's very expensive to drive. So figure it out. Anyways, they're like, well, can you tell me if someone, in the area? And it's like, I'm sorry, it's not my business to know what my competition is doing. I go, you sought me through Google. I suggest you do the same. Refine your search. And it's like, if there's someone in the area that I know, I'll refer them, right? Since all of my children have moved away, I can't refer them to anyone, right? I have one other, maybe two other people in the area that I can refer to, but all of the people that I have helped support to train and so on and so forth have all moved to like frickin' Southern Maryland and frickin' Pennsylvania. Thanks, guys, for deserting me. But and that's it. It's like, you can bring the dog to me for a board and train, but outside of that, I can't help you. You need to go fish.
Yeah. Well, I know that these activities are perfect opportunities for training, man. That's where I like why throw the baby out with the bathwater here, where like, look, this can be very valuable as long as you know how to structure it. And just like Ellie. Hey Ellie, good to see you here. We went to Jay Jack's seminar, and he uses play and training. He's a big fan of Ivan Balbinoff, and that's one thing I love about Ivan. And I hope to attend his school. I hope that's one thing about, like, I'm going to different schools. I learn from it, as many people as I can. And it's good to see you here.
I see you.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let's see. I think Linda just changed my entire mindset. Other trainers are not my market. That's right. Remember that. The only time that you're focusing on other trainers is like what I'm doing here. Like, I hope other trainer, but I'm not. I mean, I do shadow programs and I do some consultant work with other trainers and stuff to help them. But this basically is it. Like I hope other trainers see this. I hope other trainers watch this and change and for the better, because at the end of the day, we're all in this to benefit dogs. And I'm training Baltimore 3 days a week. Homes down 183, I-83. Yep, the east side. How do you do the? I know the west side here. On the west side. Whatever. My wife, I wish she was here so she can be like, oh no.
Oh man. But I mean, it's true. It's like, there's nothing you can't teach a dog that isn't going to benefit it. I have never seen a dog unimproved by training, ever.
Yeah. They're like to make the favorable character, right? That's the Keeler, right? The couple things that I love about Keeler. I mean, there's so much I love about Keeler, but the one thing, like, the mark of a trained dog is off leash reliability. I'm just like, I'll always remember that, and then to make the dog's character into a more favorable one through training. And that is absolutely what we're doing here. And don't kid yourself, man. The trainers, arguing with trainers, are not going to do that. What's going to do that is focusing on your clients. And that's what I love about, that's why I don't need to be on social media. That's where, like, I even made a post about if social media were to go away tomorrow, guess how many trainers would slough off, because my clients are way more important to me than posts on social media. But if people can gain knowledge from the post and at the end of the day benefit more dogs in the world, that's why I do this. That's why I do this for free. I mean, even though I do have a Patreon page, and if you guys like what I do here, please consider supporting me over there. But it's not my.
Look at what Summer says. Helping other trainers and trying to impress other trainers are two different things.
Boom.
I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm past the point of trying to impress anybody. I don't care what other people think of me. I don't. I have survived quite nicely doing what I've been doing for all these years. And it's like Bill said, there's a lot of stuff I do for free, entirely for free. We spent many hours on Sunday. We had an open invitation to trainers in the area. We had a trainer drive over 8 hours one way to spend the day with us, turn around and went home that same day. We had trainers from, a local trainer, Carla LaFleur from Frederick. She came out. I know my friend Ashley was at, some like dog event. Like that's more important than us. But,
Ashley.
Just Ashley, right? So, but I mean, we had people come out, and we had several owners that have that are interested in training and came out as well. And it's like, I have an open door policy. Yes, there are things I charge for, but if you have a question and you need a consult, I've never turned my back on anyone. The one thing that you are able to afford at this stage of grace, age, whatever, is discretion. Right. So it's like there's absolutely nothing you need to fear except being told the truth. And if that's too harmful to you, then I don't think that you're going to be able to find any help anywhere.
Yeah. Buck up, toughen up. The truth will set us free. But the one thing that I love about getting older, that's the best part, is that you just don't give a shit anymore.
Honey, and I never gave a shit before, and now it's even less of a shit give. I mean, I just, it's like I have, here's a question. What are Canine Behavior Society? What are some of the most important things the public does not know about dogs that you wish you could tell them? That dogs are not lemon brains. They're thinking, feeling, cogent, sentient things. They have an agenda. They have a social construct. We are in their presence more than they are in our presence, and we need to respect that.
Yes. And their wants and desires as an individual, that particular individual dog, are just as important as your wants and desires are to you as an individual. And I tell people, like, if you don't believe your dog is watching you 24/7, go pick up your car keys, put on your jacket, and go sit on the couch.
Yep.
Right? They're studying us. Right? They're present way more than we are. We have these little boxes that we can check out all the time, right? And it's the other thing that I would like the public to know is, like, the anthropomorphication, like overlaying your own perceptions on this animal. And I get why we do it, because it makes it much more easier to understand, is by seeing it through the way that we perceive the world. But we can't do that. We have to understand the way that the dog thinks, and to see the world through the dog's eyes by proxy is my goal. I mean, there's a couple goals that I have. One is that, and two, that's the understanding the why the dog is doing this, but also as a teacher, and also as an activity, that a good teacher becomes progressively unnecessary once I've instilled this knowledge within you. And so that's the other aspect of this, is like, look, I'm not a guru, I'm not any of this stuff, and like, you can do this and empower them to make, by understanding, and whatever way I can do that through analogies and through learning constantly is our duty, to get people to understand. But yeah, they're not lemon heads. I like that. They're not lemon heads.
Not. I tell people this all the time. I tell owners, it's like, because at one point in Keeler, what we're doing is we're redirecting the dog's attention, right? The whole week one is dedicated to making your dog attentive. The rest of the training is getting your dog to understand that is their obligation to us. throughout the training. So when I give you a command, dog, it's your obligation to listen and pay attention, because I may ask you to do something else. When I'm working with owners that, and I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing a lot of first-time pet owners who have never owned a dog in their life. And they kind of get I get the impression that they have a tendency to think of dogs as houseplants and not as living, thinking things. So when we start talking about the whole, descendants of the apex predator class and going through, what it is that makes dogs ticks and stuff like that, and what makes dogs tick, I'll tell them, if you want to know what your dog is thinking, look at where he's looking, and you can tell what he's thinking, right? And that's it. And like once they get it, they're like, oh, right. Dog cannot, and it's just like most people. Although we think we multitask, we suck at multitasking. Hi, cutie. I have a dog.
She's looking out the window. Like there's a window right here, and she's looking for the cat.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm watching her now. Watch. I'll put her towards the. Still looking out the window.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, these people things are dumb. But basically, one of the things I tell people is like, you cannot have two thoughts occupy the same brain. Dogs cannot think about two things at once. Not going, I'm healing, but I'm actually contemplating world domination. He's either contemplating world domination or he's healing. So if he's healing, anything that's not healing becomes a correctable offense. And I'm not saying, damn you, heal, dog. I'm basically making it difficult for him to do anything but heal.
That's right.
So
pay attention to
the task. Out the window, and Dave actually shot a sequence of a young flat-coated retriever who came over to say hi to Auntie Linda, and he launched himself. He was like a 90-pound dog. He's a big dog. And Dave just made a departing turn, and there was a point in the video where the dog is literally vertical like this, and I'm standing over here to the side. You see where he makes contact. Dave makes the corrective action. The dog goes up, and all of a sudden he's turned and faced the opposite direction. It took that long for the dog to figure out jumping on Auntie Linda is a very bad idea. I didn't have to touch the dog. I didn't have to push the dog. I didn't have to say no, nothing. All that happened was a departing turn. The very next sequence, dog comes back, plunks into a sit. I'm able to give him the coochie coo, two-handed love fest, and off we go. So what he realized is greeting is great, but I have to be polite when I do it. And it doesn't take that much effort. It beats yeeting on the dog, no, off, sit, blah, 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 whatever people have a tendency to make dogs do. And all I wanted for the dog to realize was, I'll be nice to you if you're nice to me. And the handling enabled him to realize, if I pay attention to what's in front of me, good things are going to happen. That's the fundamental function of all training. That's it. And no real pressure was associated with that.
And I'm going to show you, since we're talking about Keeler here, I'm going to show you a readiness test so people can just get an understanding of. So the video that we're going to watch here, this was on another channel that I had just for Keeler. And what we're talking about is I'm using the biggest distraction that this dog had. And this was when I was young too. So biggest distraction was tennis balls. And so I'm walking up, and just to show you an example of me turning the body. I'm not saying anything, by the way.
Nice.
And that's what and Tony actually uses that now for the curriculum in the school.
Yeah.
Right. He asked me if he could use it. I was like, beautiful. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. Neutral. And the thing is, you guys, is that we need this dog to discern. I hate being micromanaged myself. I hate it. Tell me what to do and I'll laugh right in your face. Is one of my favorite things to do.
There you go.
Right?
I think all self-employed people have that.
Yeah. And so we need to trust our dog. And when we know that this dog is a sentient being, then we trust that dog is going to be able to discern. And proper training allows that dog the environment where they truly learn how to discern. And then we start to implement more enticing things that are going to allow the dog to prove that they know how to discern, that they know to pay attention to the handler above anything else.
We are not titrating the level of correction at all. We are titrating the level of distraction. from the time, and it's like, you hear me refer to this all the time. So week 1, long line, from day 3 onward, all we're doing is teaching the dog how to accommodate the presence of things that really compete for its interest, right? For its attention. So even though we're compounding skills as we go through the work, week 1, the foundation, which is the long line work, and it's even written in the text, can go up to 10 days or longer, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that rare dog that isn't going to benefit that within 7 days, you can always go longer. I've never known a dog to suffer from doing too much long line work, right? But from day 3, if we have to titrate those distractions from 20 feet out from our point, and if that's too much for the dog, we make it further away, right? That's fine. We're not throwing the dog to the wolves. And as Tony instructs, we're doing something in social, we're doing something in prey, and we're doing something in defense. So if you have a dog who doesn't have any defense drive, if you have a dog who doesn't have any prey drive, you're really going to be pushed to find something to test that dog at any point in time throughout the training. You get to a point, and it's usually by the time you get to the string test at the end of week 5, before you start week 6, when the dog's finally like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, because they're just like, okay, so I know that the left leg means heel. I know that the right leg means stay. I know that this means down. I know that this means sit. I know that this means stand. I know that this means come. So, and you don't have to speak to the dog, right? That's the gift we give them. We give them the gift of language, and then we don't use it. And it's just, it's fascinating to me when I get a client to the point where they can actually pass the string test. They are so gobsmacked at how able their dog has become that they take for granted all of the work that they did. But the change for me, the most rewarding thing for me, is owners who successfully complete the week 5 readiness test are completely different people.
Yep. And sometimes that's all they want too. Like they're like, I've seen people like, this is a perfect dog for me. He can stay. He learns to stay. He learns, the sit down and stand and to walk nicely, the heel. We've done the corrective turns. And the people that don't know, a string test is actually where we take a thread and we make a loop, and then we put the buckle of the leash on one end of the loop, and then the other loop on the collar, and we walk the dog through the distractions, other dogs scrambling around or cat or whatever, by a chicken. And then at the end of the test, what we do is we take the collar and the leash and we break it to show that it's a string, that it's not anything. So the dog discerns without any true pressure whatsoever. It's a beautiful thing. I've often told people that, and I've told Tony this many times, is that the Keeler methodology of training, people think that it's such a harsh and outdated method, and I tell people it's the most fair and gentle method that I've encountered in my many years.
It is. And the people, and I laugh, because I've been doing this for years and years and years. It's just so horrifying that I've been doing it this long. And there's people who've been doing it longer than me. But the thing that really cracks me up is when people come at me with Kohler and how we, stick dogs' heads in puddles filled with water to drown them because they dug, or all the other stuff, tranking a dog because it's coming up the leash at you and stuff like that. It's like, no. Did you read the first 16 chapters?
Yeah.
It's like, because I'll be honest with you, with all the meathead dogs that I've worked with, I can only think of maybe 6 in thousands that required more work than what the first 16 chapters had to offer. And that included the Digger, which was one of my own dogs, and 4 or 5 dogs that had just preternatural aggression issues that were resolved with appropriate handling and troubled no more. But, and I've counseled for euthanasia. I have 2 dogs that I'm working with right now, 9 years old, both of them. One is a man eater and one is a dog eater, and they live in the same house.
Great.
We're on week 3. No, that's a lie. We're on week 4 with the dog eater, and we're on week 3 with the man eater. Guess who has improved, even after 9 years of being able to do whatever they want? Dog eater does not need a muzzle anymore. Man eater is still wearing a muzzle because she does not like being touched. And she's been in the same home for 9 years, through the entirety of her life. But basically, it's just a matter of, this is what people don't want. And this is what young people, I can't keep saying young people, this is what new people don't want. They don't want to have to
young to the industry.
Young to the industry. They don't want to have to put forth that effort. And the thing is, though, is when I was doing seminars, the very first thing out of my mouth is crowds of people. And basically, it's like everybody that you work with, these are all professional trainers with exception of very few. Every single person here has at least 5 weeks. From week 1 to the end of week 5, every person here has at least 5 weeks. The average length for the average pet dog group class is 5 or 6 weeks, or 6 weeks, 5 weeks of actual work. One week, the beginning week is usually housekeeping rules and stuff like that, right? Where no dogs are present. Everybody has 5 weeks. But when they sit down and they look at the 120 minutes they need to come up with in order to get through week 4's work, what they don't understand is they can actually spread that out, right?
Yep.
They don't have to do it all at one time, but they see these big numbers and they're like, oh my God, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. I guarantee you can. You know how I know? Because I can, and I'm the laziest MFer on the face of the planet, right? And it's like, even all cripped up like I am, I walk for a total of about 15 or 20 minutes and my leg blows up, right? Or my hip blows up. And basically it's like, my personal physical things, attributes aside, when it comes to certain things, you can modify all of this work. Keeler loves geometrical shapes. Keeler loves that you create things incrementally. And basically it enables you to be able to, and I tell people this all the time, when I was training retrievers, when I was training dogs to, that actually function in the world doing other things, I would do my force fetch while I was watching TV and do 10, 15 placements during a commercial break. And then we would work on other skills like casting. Right there in the living room, here's a dog bed, here's a dog bed, here's a dog bed. We're teaching concepts. We're practicing in the real world, but we're teaching concepts where it's quiet and the dog can focus on the task, right? And I say this is one of my catchphrases. I say it all the time. Training can happen anywhere, right? Practice must happen everywhere. And people have to understand, I can teach my dogs anything I want them to learn in my kitchen, all the 10-foot square space I have available in my kitchen. But yes, I have to practice those stuff outside in the world. I can't just take my dog to the mall and expect it to behave. I have to take my dog to the mall, work in the parking lot, work closer to the door, and then walk in the mall. That might take a week. It might take longer. I'm still practicing the same skills I taught the dog in my kitchen. I'm just doing it in a broader scope, right?
Yeah, generalizing to the real world. And in the world, we're going to encounter chaos. Chaos and order is a natural rhythm of our universe. And just like we were talking about with the long line work, I talked to like the threshold of overwhelm. Once we're in overwhelm, we need to look at where we're at and decrease the distance so the dog can get a little bit more stable to help generalize them. And overlaying, that is training, overlaying this with your life, right? People ask, how long do I do a downstay for? How long do I, put my dog in a place or whatever it is? And I was like, how long do you do a Zoom call for? How long are you cooking dinner? How long, like we have perfect moments of opportunity, perfect windows of training that we can implement with our life. And not only that, but that helps because it's practical. Now we're doing what we do. We need the dogs, like all my dogs. Like she's just I don't really have them in formal commands, but they're so used to me doing these Zoom meetings and talking to this little contraption I have in my office here that they know to check out until I'm done. And then when I'm done, we're going to take them out, run them in the field, and then they can be crazy. And so, that's important to know. And I call, week 4 hell week, but there's a time also to make up for this stuff too at week 7 and there's times that we're going to have a little bit more open time to kind of fill in those gaps. The other thing that's incredible too is like when we talk about problematic behavior, I was like, let's get to week number 7 or week. I like to do a 10-week course. Because then if they want to start to get at the off leash stuff. And I tell them week 7 is all problematic behavior. We're going to be working with that separation anxiety. We're going to be working with the, barking or whatever it is, the reactivity. And guess what happens when week 7 comes around?
the problems are over, basically. Most of
That's
them.
right. Yeah.
And that's what it is.
95%.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I see for whatever reason, I see a lot of what people call separation anxiety. I just basically call it unfulfilled.
Yeah, me too.
I saw 6. I was seeing 6 virtually this last spring. And I'm seeing quite a few now, like in real life and in real time. And it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, if you give the dog a purpose, by the time they're done, they're mentally and physically so exhausted. They go in their crate, they curl up, they go to sleep, and there's no problem. Right. Yep. If you give the dog some meaning, and I'm not saying going out and frivolously playing fetch or tug or any of this other nonsense, giving the dog a purpose. Downstay is a purpose. Heel is a purpose. Come is a purpose. And, this Sunday it was funny because this gal, Sarah, that came up from North Carolina, she has a lovely German Shepherd bitch. She's going through Tony's course with the dog, and the dog is really a nice dog, very nice dog. She has another dog who I thought was like a Chessie something mix, beautiful, big, brindle, heavy-headed cobby. I love this dog. Has been her service dog. She told me it was a doodle. I was shocked. I was broken because I'm like, this is a dog I would own. She's half poodle and half St. Bernard, I think she said. Beautiful red brindle, magnificently made, just a perfect dog. Very stoic. She's like 10, and she's pre-retirement, but she's getting a little long in the tooth to keep up doing the work. But anyways, this German Shepherd, Dave was let Sarah handle one of his dogs, the Labrador that Sandy Stokes bred, Grom. And she's had field training and so on and so forth. So he was having Sarah handle while he was throwing marks for the dog. Sarah's dog was in her open truck maintaining a downstay, and she just lost her mind, right? So she's like, that dog is not allowed to have fun, and I'm not invited. So she jumps out of the truck, and she races past Sarah to intercept Grom on her way back to, actually, Grom was heading towards Dave. And Sarah created the most beautiful recall I have ever seen on a dog that was that hot. She just simply said the dog's name, which I can't remember, Liberty come. And that dog turned around. She could not have moved any faster on that recall. At a dead prey drive, whipped around, came back to Sarah, and Sarah just walked her back to the truck. And I was just like, that shit's impressive. When you can do that without your e-collar, you can do that without your other stuff, then we can talk. I want to see more of that, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, it doesn't take long. It just takes effort. There's ways to walk around it. That course was originally written for 13 weeks of training.
Yes. Yep.
And they whittled it down to 10. There's dogs that still require 13 weeks. But at the end, you get a dog that doesn't rely on equipment. You get a dog that automatically assumes these behaviors entirely on its own.
Yeah. And not only that, but now, and I always tell regarding equipment, I need the relationship to be built on respect for you. Because the leash fails, the e-collars come off, they don't make contact, whatever it is. When we rely on the equipment, then there's a hole in our program because that equipment eventually will fail. Just like when we rely on management, we have to have good training. Because even when we do have good training, we're going to encounter incidents that training is going to come to fruition. That we're going to have incidents, just like you said, where the enticement is just too great for that dog. So now we have a rock solid foundation that we could come back to. And this is what we call foundation work, right? And that's the reason why we call it foundation work. And then people ask, and I mean, Linda's the best. She always provides if I need. I refer a new trainer to her, calling other trainers, everyone to contact Linda. And the best way to contact you is what, through Facebook or Lionheart K9?
There's a contact post, or there's a contact link on the website, lionheartk9.com. I'm online as Linda Kaim is my personal profile, and Lionheart K9 on Facebook is the business page. I have a phone number. I don't have problems with people calling me on the phone number as long as you're not harassing me, because then I'll have to hunt you.
Yeah, don't make Linda hunt you.
My phone number is posted just about anywhere. And again, you can reach out to. I'm sorry.
Oh, I put the link to the website in the comments.
Oh, that's fine. That's good, because it's posted on the website too. So if you want to make a direct call, I do. If you want to, I do offer free consults, free 30-minute consults. We're talking behavior issues and stuff like that. There is a fee for that. And for the most part, I'm still a chick who needs to make a living, even though I'm a Social Security pensioner. But for the most part, there's not a lot I haven't seen. There's not a lot I haven't done. There's a lot of stuff I still need to learn. But now, basically, at this point, it's a matter of it doesn't have the same urgency as it did in the past. I can. I have my preferences for things. I like hunting dogs. I like retrievers, and I like obedience. And I'm available if you want to talk. Otherwise, hate me. I don't care.
Well, let's go through the comments here too, and then I have one more question for you, and then we'll sign off on that. Many back and forth of quadrants to be easier for pet people to learn. Yeah, whatever is effective for them to learn the why. Like I do. I don't talk quadrants at all. My pet people could give a shit about the only time that I speak quadrants is like if I'm dealing with a psychologist or somebody that actually, knows it, then I can put it. Right. So if they're in the behavior realm working with people or whatever, then I might get into the jargon. But otherwise, it's like, look, your dog is like Buddy Elf. You know Buddy Elf on the movie? Yeah, you know how he's all crazy and he's like, people don't like that crap. Well, guess what? Your dog is Buddy Elf to other dogs. He's just super crazy with other, and they're like, oh,
cool. It's easy. It's like Bill said. I mean, people don't really care about that quadrant stuff. It's like, here, you make your dog sit, and then you tell him he's a good boy, and then you tell him he's done, and move on, right? You just it isn't really that difficult. If you want someone who wants to argue with you about positive reinforcement, the vast majority of people that argue with you about positive reinforcement do not understand what positive reinforcement is. They don't.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's like, and I've gotten to the point now where I don't even argue with people when it comes to the type of equipment they want to put their dog on. If they want to work the dog on a harness, I make sure that it fits correctly, that the dog can't escape out of it. I'll do that too. Head halters, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. The equipment doesn't matter. The equipment helps facilitate training. The equipment does not do the training.
That's right. At the end of the day, we need you to respect the handler and the relationship. It starts with that respect. What was this other one I'm looking at here? Going through, we have a lot of great comments, you guys, and make sure to share this. And if you haven't watched, this one. So we started talking about this, you guys. So Canine Behavior Society noticed major cultural changes. We went all through that at the beginning of our chat here. So rewatch that. There has been many different cultural changes. So check that out. Sandy, what's up, Sandy?
Sandy. I'm going to go eval a litter of her puppies here in another couple months.
Awesome. I don't know, online classes. I highly recommend Tony's, you guys watch or go through Tony's course, ISTA. Let me see if I could find Keeler, because this is his website. I want to share it. And I highly recommend this, you guys. This is something that I've done a few times myself. It's made me a better trainer. I owe a lot to Tony. Tony's going to come on and do one of these live streams with me as well. And I can't recommend it enough. There is a messy middle. You're going to take it's going to be uncomfortable. Killer dog training will take but just like we were talking about, like this is a program that is going to teach you, and you actually take a green dog or a dog that's untrained, and you're going to take them through the program. You videotape every aspect of it. And the program is so far helped my dogs immensely. It's going to help you as a trainer. ISTA is fabulous. What is ISTA? Internet's, I can't remember what it stands for, but I put up a link here, Killer Dog Training or Kohler Dog Training. I guess it is Keeler, but
Kohler. Coming. Get you.
Is it Kohler? Because Tony says it's Keeler.
It's Keeler.
Okay.
It's Keeler. It's people that call it Kohler that tells me exactly who they are.
Yeah, totally. So, Linda, last question for you. Okay, I want you to go back, and this is for the people that are young in the industry. What would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now, and you're talking to younger Linda? What advice would you give her, and what advice do you give the new people that are just starting out?
Don't stop. Keep going. Find a mentor. Learn everything you can from them. Find another mentor. Learn everything you can from them. And then keep going until not to the point to where you think you know it all, because you never will, but until you have actively touched all of the things that interest you and know them so well that you can see them in your mind's eye without having to stop and think about them. Just don't stop learning. Don't. Start as quickly as you can and make it your life's ambition to learn everything that you possibly can. And that's it. I mean, I to this day, you know, I mean, I'm going to run out of dogs before I run out of desire to train them or learn anything about them.
Bill Killer was my first mentor, good but limited, especially for movie dogs. Well, he did a bunch of movie dogs there. I mean, the one thing that attracted me to Keeler is that they never turned any dog away.
Yep. And that's just it. It's like, even now, I will no longer take aggressive dogs in the boarding and training program because I'm just too damn old. You know, but that doesn't mean I won't work with people who own aggressive dogs. Of the 7 or 8 dogs I have on my private training roster right now, 4 of them have defensive aggression. 4 of them have bite histories. So, you know, and it's not like, you know, 2 of them, it could have been prevented, but it wasn't. And here they are at a pretty significant age where they have these problems, but we're working through it and the dogs continue to improve. So as long as that continues to happen, I'm fine. But, you know, find a way. That's the only other thing I can think of, is find a way. You're going to have more people that are going to try and discourage you than you're going to have people who are going to be willing to help you. So, and it's just like, you know, Bill is a very kind, very gentle, very spiritual man. I am none of those things. But yes, if you want information, I'm willing to give it. The thing is you have to be able to receive the information you get. And you're going to find people like me who are like that. I'm very frank. I'm very direct. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but facts are facts and facts speak. Feelings don't matter.
Amen. Well, Linda, thank you very much for your time. Everybody, thank you for watching. And if you haven't watched the whole thing, this is filled with a lot of pearls of wisdom that you can apply. And always love speaking with you, my friend.
Thank you, my dear. It was always a pleasure. Guys, you know how to get a hold of me. If you want to. If you don't, then I understand. I won't be too hurt, I promise. I mean, you know, basically I'm available if you want to talk. If not, then, you know, have fun anyways. So, yeah, I don't have any immediate plans in the future. It's like I said, we're pretty much semi-retired. Once I find out what's going to happen with my house, we'll determine how we proceed going forward. So y'all have a great day.
Yeah, and I'll let you all know when Linda comes out. We'll start that conversation again. Okay, Linda?
That would be great.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Say bye to everybody here, but you stay there. I'll say bye to you in the studio. Okay?
All right.
Bye, everybody. Good.